You ever watch your life shrink aisle by aisle? I used to be the guy people liked working with. I knew how to slice deli ham paper thin, could stack a sandwich like a magician, and had a dumb talent for combining hot case leftovers into meals that actually slapped. Chicken tenders chopped into mac and cheese, mini tacos dipped in ranch and Tabasco, that kind of thing. But that was before Melanie. We dated for over a year, mostly quiet nights and lunch breaks in the walk-in cooler when no one was around. I loved her. She was sharp, direct, the kind of woman who could balance the deli budget with one hand and shut down a rude customer with the other. But love doesn't always stay fresh. She got promoted. I didn't. And somewhere between her new name tag and my third late rent notice, she stopped looking at me like I mattered. One day she just cooled off. We broke up during a 10-minute smoke break behind receiving. I thought we'd cry, we didn't. After that, things curdled. She'd correct me in front of other staff, assign me to night shifts with no support. HR said it wasn't retaliation. Just a scheduling gap, they claimed. Fine, whatever. I started avoiding her, which was easy at 12 a.m. I worked alone. No more talking. No more weird tension by the meat slicer. Just me, a mop, and whatever was left in the hot case. I started eating more. Not because I was hungry, because it gave me something to do. Old jalapeno poppers, cold rotisserie bits, expired cheese cubes left for sampling. Management warned me, don't eat what's marked out. But I didn't care. That food and I had something in common. We were both past our expiration date. There's this thing about shame. It makes you do dumb stuff. That's how I ended up ordering a frozen pizza from my own Walmart on the app under the name Nico Ramirez. I used a throwaway email. I told myself it was a joke. Something about buying from the place that paid me felt pathetic. I picked it up during break around 12:10 a.m., hoodie on, head down. Self-checkout was empty. I scanned the shelf, grabbed the pizza, and walked out like a ghost. I took it back to the van. My sad little aluminum coffin behind the garden center, under that flickering light that never got fixed. I had a camping stove and a mini pan. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. I cooked the pizza the lazy way. Half-frozen crust, bubbling cheese. Took a bite mid-scroll through Reddit and immediately gagged. The texture was off. I spit it out. The cheese had pulled away from the slice like wet skin. I flipped the top back, and that's when I saw them. Maggots, small and writhing, buried under the mozzarella, like they'd been sealed in. I dropped the slice, ran outside the van, and threw up next to the bumper. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Rotten. Like you. Attached was a photo of me, sleeping, slumped in the van, mouth slightly open, my vest crumpled next to me like shed skin. I looked around the lot. No one. Just empty spaces and quiet humming from refrigeration units. My heart started sprinting. I showed the store manager the next day. Security shrugged. Cameras glitched that night. Power loop issue, they said. HR nodded, wrote things down, and told me they'd follow up. They didn't. But Melanie looked at me the next shift, just a flicker, cold and clinical, and I knew. Or I thought I did. After the pizza incident, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was scared to eat, paranoid. I kept checking my sandwiches, cracking open sealed snacks to make sure nothing squirmed inside. My stomach turned at the smell of melted cheese. I tried to be logical. Maybe it was a freak accident. Maybe the picture was old. Maybe someone else found it funny. But it didn't feel random. Melanie always knew how to sting without leaving marks. That was her gift. I'd once seen her make a coworker cry without raising her voice, and now I was unraveling. I started talking to myself more, whispering questions out loud. What if she did it? What if she's watching? What if she won't stop? My coworkers noticed. They kept their distance. I asked to transfer, begged really, and by some miracle, it went through. A 40-mile bump to a location in Delano. New building, new boss, no Melanie. I left that Walmart like it was on fire. I thought that would be the end of it. But some nights, parked behind a different store, under a different buzzing light. I'd find myself staring at the food I just microwaved. Just staring, waiting for it to breathe or blink or crawl. I never saw maggots again. Not really. But I smelled them, or thought I did. My body flinches first. My stomach gurgles. My throat tightens like a noose. I wake up gagging in the middle of the night, sweating through my shirt. Sometimes I wonder if the pizza was ever real. But I know it was. The new store wasn't bad. Bigger crew, better lighting, fewer shadows. But I wasn't the same guy who used to crack jokes over the intercom or invent weird nacho recipes during lunch. I kept to myself. People assumed I was shy. Fine by me. No one asked about the van and I didn't volunteer. I lived off vending machine crackers and protein drinks now, factory sealed only, but the ghosts still followed. A month after transferring, I found a sticky note on my dash. No name, no message, just a grease stain shaped like a smiley face. Coincidence? Maybe. But when I went back in for my shift, someone had written "spoiled" on the whiteboard over the deli prep station in dry erase red, my least favorite color. I didn't report it. What would I say? Someone might be emotionally harassing me across counties. They'd nod, scribble a note, and then go back to ordering more turkey breast. That's the thing. When you don't have proof, your fear becomes your prison. No locks, no bars, just you and the constant knowing that someone, somewhere, wants you to rot from the inside out. I learned to live with it, like spoiled leftovers in the back of the fridge. You don't touch them, but you never forget they're there. These days I work the overnight truck shift. Just boxes and beeping scanners. No hot case, no deli. No reason to talk to anyone unless I want to. Sometimes I still see her, Melanie, in dreams mostly. Sometimes just her eyes. Other times a smile forming behind the deli counter, lips moving, but no sound. I still don't know if it was her. And that's the part that keeps me up. I never got closure. No confession, no gotcha moment. Just silence. Corporate indifference. And the smell of rotten cheese seared into memory. So I check everything I eat now, 3 times, sometimes 4. I check locks twice before I sleep in the van. I always park under a light, always face the cameras, even when I know they don't work. Because somewhere out there, someone smiled when I gagged on that pizza. And the thought of that, it still makes me sick. Cruelty doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through small actions, silent sabotage, and well-timed neglect. When institutions fail to investigate or protect, victims are left questioning their own sanity. Believe people before the leftovers go bad, because by the time the rot surfaces, the damage has already been done. My name's Eli. I've worked at Cafe Mayweather for almost 3 years. It's not glamorous, but it pays enough to cover my film classes and rent. And honestly, it's a good kind of predictable. I know which customers will ask for oat milk, who tips in coins, and who always forgets their punch card. That morning started like any other. The regulars came in with messy hair and half-buttoned coats. A dad bribed his daughter with a muffin to behave in the stroller. A couple studied a crossword in silence. Then she walked in. She looked tired in a way you don't fake. Hoodie pulled over greasy hair, dark crescents under her eyes, a diaper bag hanging from one shoulder. A baby slept in a front carrier on her chest. A little boy trailed behind her, clutching a dinosaur toy. She gave a weak smile and ordered a small latte. Nothing fancy. Then a minute later, she came back up to the counter, tapping her fingers nervously. "Hey, I'm really sorry to ask," she said, voice low. "But could I leave them here just for a minute? I need the restroom and..." I looked at her, really looked, the panic sitting just under her skin. "Yeah," I said. "Of course, I'll keep an eye out." She whispered a thank you and disappeared toward the back. I wasn't nervous at first. The baby slept on peacefully, chest rising and falling against the carrier. The boy sat quietly at a corner table, kicking his legs against the bench seat, humming something tuneless. Then I saw him. He came through the door like any customer would. Calm, clean, carrying nothing. Late 30s, maybe. Collared shirt, neatly tucked. His eyes scanned the room briefly before landing on the boy. He smiled, walked over, and leaned in close. "Hey, buddy," he said, soft and smooth. "Uncle's here." I froze. He didn't look at me, just reached down toward the baby carrier, like it belonged to him. "Thanks for watching them," he said casually. "I'll take them now." It was a blur, but something inside me lit up. Something cold and sharp. The hairs on my neck stood up. I stepped forward, keeping my tone flat. "Do you have ID?" He chuckled, like I was being ridiculous. "Who carries ID to get coffee?" I smiled, tight-lipped, and turned toward the espresso machine. My coworker Sam stood there, drying mugs. I gave him our silent code, the one we used for emergencies. A thumb swipe across the counter, slow and deliberate. "Could you stay right here for a second?" I said to the man. He shifted, one hand still near the baby's head. "No need," he said. "I've got them." But then, like a jolt of lightning, the bathroom door opened. She appeared in the hallway, scanning quickly, and then stopped. Her eyes locked on the man beside her children, and her whole body changed. Number, get away from them," she screamed, full volume. Her voice cracked from somewhere deep in her chest. She rushed forward and grabbed both kids, pulling the baby into her arms and grabbing the boy by his jacket. The man didn't say a word. He didn't even try to explain. He just backed away slowly, hands raised like she was the problem. That's when she turned to me, breathless, shaking. "That's not their uncle," she whispered, eyes wet. "That's my ex. I have a restraining order. He's not supposed to be anywhere near us." Sam locked the front door before the man could exit. Another customer had already called 911. She sat in the back room with the kids. I brought her a glass of water and she was sobbing, rocking slightly. "I didn't think he'd find us here," she kept saying. "He's been gone for months. I thought we were safe." The police arrived within 10 minutes. They took statements. The man was calm, unbothered. He denied everything, but the officers had seen this before. The restraining order came up in the system. He was taken into custody. She stayed another hour. We let her breathe. I wiped down tables in silence, too jittery to do much else. She left with a friend who came to pick her up. The next morning there was a folded note taped to the register. "You saved my kids. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped him. Thank you. Truly." It was written in pencil, with shaky lines. No signature. I read it twice, then stuck it behind the espresso machine where no one would throw it out. Since that day, I've never let anyone leave a child without checking first. I don't care how polite someone seems or how many family terms they use. Uncle, aunt, family friend, none of it means anything without proof. I think about her sometimes. The way her voice cracked when she screamed. The way she held her babies afterward, like the whole world had tried to snatch them away. And I think about how easy it could have been to say yes, to not ask questions, to assume. You never think danger looks so normal, so polished, so calm, but it can. And that moment, those 10 seconds between suspicion and confirmation, they matter more than we think. Never let politeness override instinct. When it comes to the safety of others, especially children, ask questions, slow things down, and trust your gut. Not everyone who smiles has good intentions. Real heroes aren't flashy. Sometimes they're just the ones who ask for ID. There are some people you expect to live the rest of your life never hearing from again. And honestly, most days I was grateful Aaron was one of them. Then his name popped up in my inbox. It was a Facebook message. No frills, no subject line, just, "Can we meet?" Just once. My stomach nodded like it used to before I threw up before school dances. I stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes. I clicked his profile, new name, Different city, barely any pictures. Same eyes, though. That charming, narrow-lidded stare I once would have trusted with my life. We hadn't spoken in 10 years. Not since that night in senior year. Not since the hospital. Not since I woke up with a cracked rib, blood in my mouth, and silence thick enough to choke on. No police report, no confrontation. He vanished. I heard rumors that he dropped out, that he moved west, that he blamed me. I typed, "Where?" He replied minutes later, "Mel's, Saturday night out by Crestwood." Of course, neutral ground, quiet, halfway between nowhere. I told myself I was going for closure, but deep down I think I was still chasing an apology. Mel's looked exactly like you'd expect an old highway diner to look. Faded vinyl booths, a jukebox stuck on 90s country, and a waitress who didn't care much for small talk. The kind of place where eye contact is rare and stories get left in the parking lot. I got there early, ordered a coffee and tried not to fidget. My fingers tapped the ceramic mug too much. I hated that I still cared how this played out. He showed up 20 minutes late, same confident walk, same crooked grin, still wiry, maybe a little grayer around the temples. Wearing a hoodie and jeans like we were back in college, like time hadn't hardened me and worn him out. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Hey." It started fine, surface level. Shared jokes, stories about mutual friends we'd both lost touch with. We laughed a little, and for a moment it was like being 20 again. But I could see it, in the way he didn't hold eye contact too long, in the way his fingers twitched near his glass every time the past crept too close to the surface. He ordered a beer, then another. I stuck with coffee. "You remember that night at the cabin?" he asked at one point. I nodded, my hands clenched under the table. He laughed. Man, we were so dramatic back then. I didn't laugh. It didn't take long for things to sour. The more Aaron drank, the bolder he got. He started revising history like it was some drunken story we told ourselves differently now. Said things like, "We were just kids, man," and "You really blew that whole thing out of proportion." I felt heat crawl up my neck. My jaw clenched. "You think I blew it out of proportion?" I asked. My voice shook, but I kept it low. Aaron looked away, chewing his lip. "Look, you made it sound like I tried to kill you. I was drunk. You were yelling." I snapped. "It was one moment." "One moment that sent me to the hospital," I shot back. He sighed. "You don't think you provoked it? You always acted like you were better than everyone. Always pushing me." I blinked. "You think I provoked you into beating the hell out of me?" My voice rose with every word. The table next to us fell silent. He leaned in. "You told people I was a monster. You disappeared." His eyes narrowed. "Because I knew what people would say. You made sure of that." I stood. So did he. People stared. Someone near the counter took out their phone. "You ruined my life with your version of that night," Aaron snapped. "And you got to walk away like nothing happened," I said, shaking. The manager came over, hand raised, voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you both to leave." We didn't argue. We just walked out. Two men, a decade of silence, and no resolution between them. I didn't even know the video existed until one of my students showed me Monday morning. "Is this you, Mr. Miles?" Blurry footage. Shaky hands. My face, red and tense. Aaron's voice, unmistakable. The words, "You ruined my life," echoed over cheap speakers in front of 30 wide-eyed teenagers. It made local rounds, one of those diner drama clips that people love to dissect. The school board wasn't thrilled. They called it a distraction. I was asked to take a leave. Unpaid, of course, for the sake of stability. Aaron deleted his socials. I never responded to the post, never gave a statement. What would I say? That I wanted closure and got humiliation instead? Mel's became something I saw every time I drove out past Crestwood. The place where I tried to finally speak my truth and got swallowed by it instead. People say confrontation brings healing. That closure is something you can carve out with words. They don't tell you how often it just reopens what never healed. Sometimes I drive past Mel's. Not intentionally, just reflex, I guess. It's always quiet now, still open but thinner crowds. I don't go inside. I just look at that booth, second one by the window, and wonder what would have happened if we never met again. Or what would have happened if he'd said, "I'm sorry," and meant it. Or if I'd stayed in the hospital bed that night and told the cops everything. I don't know. Some silences are necessary. Some are cowardly. Others, they just hang between two people for years, slowly turning into rot. Aaron and I will never speak again. And I think we both knew that the moment we sat down. We came looking for peace. All we did was dig up bones. Some chapters aren't meant to be reopened, especially if both authors refuse to admit what they wrote. Not every reunion brings healing. Sometimes the past demands silence, not closure. If you ever drive through Hollow's End, don't blink. You'll miss it. It's the kind of place that looks frozen in time, except time kept going and left it behind. The only grocery stores got flickering lights and expired milk. Half the storefronts are boarded up. The rest sell lottery tickets, off-brand soda, and dust. We moved here in 2012, after Dad's factory in Pittsburgh shut down. He didn't say much when it happened, just packed our stuff and told me to help him carry the microwave. Mom cried quietly when she thought we couldn't hear. My little sister Lily kept asking if we were going on vacation. She didn't understand what losing everything really meant. I was 15. I understood too much. We ended up in a 2-bedroom duplex that smelled like mildew and regret, parked near the old train yard. Dad tried day jobs, warehouse, repair work, whatever was going, but nothing stuck. Mom picked up shifts at Mel's Diner, the only place open past 8. That left me to walk Lily home from school, make her boxed mac and cheese, and wash her bed sheets when she wet the bed again. I didn't fit in at Hollow's End High. Too scrawny, too quiet, too Pittsburgh. They called me city boy like it was a slur. I had asthma, old sneakers, and a head full of fantasy novels. My only escape was scribbling stories in a torn notebook I kept in my backpack, pages fraying at the corners. And then came Tyler Briggs. When Tyler noticed you, it wasn't a good thing. It meant something bad was about to happen. He smiled at me once, not friendly, just that kind of grin that says, "I've picked you." And everything changed. It was a Thursday when Tyler called out to me, "Hey, Pittsburgh, you ever seen The Trestle?" I was standing by my locker, flipping through an old copy of The Hobbit. He said it like we were friends, like we were equals. His gang circled him. Kayla, with her raccoon eyeliner and sneer, and Mitch, the silent mountain who followed him around like a guard dog. They all stared at me like I'd passed some invisible test. "Want to come after school tomorrow?" Kayla said, popping her gum. "We bring beer. Do dares. Bet you won't jump." The Trestle was Hollow's End's worst-kept secret. A busted-up railroad bridge stretching 30 feet over Blackwater Creek. Rotting wood, rusted rails, and maybe 4 feet of dirty water below. The older kids used to party there, sometimes jump off. A few broke bones. A kid lost his foot in the 90s. But stories fade, and kids are stupid. I didn't know what to say. Part of me screamed no, the smarter part. But the rest? The lonely, humiliated part that ate lunch alone and prayed to disappear. That part wanted in. Tyler slapped me on the back. "Cool, you're in." That night, I could barely breathe. Not from the asthma, from the weight of maybe belonging. But the next day, Wes Holloway cornered me after 6th period. Most kids called him Gremlin or Trash Rat, but I knew he was smarter than any of them. He tinkered with broken phones, sold fixed radios online. Poor like the rest of us, but meaner in a quiet, broken way. He grabbed my arm. His eyes were wild. "Don't go. I heard him talking. Tyler said someone's gonna get tossed, said it's a joke, it ain't." I stared at him. "You think they'd pick Mitch?" he asked. "Or Kayla? You're the new chew toy, Mercer." He let go and walked off. And that night, when I stood at the edge of the woods and heard that cruel laughter echoing from the trestle, I ran. They ignored me after that. Tyler's crew, I mean. Like I didn't exist anymore. Kayla tossed a crumpled soda can at my head in the hall. "Oops," she smirked. Mitch shoulder-checked me into a locker and kept walking. I thought maybe they'd punish me worse for not showing. But indifference cuts deeper than bruises sometimes. Then came Noah Carter, skinny, awkward, stuttering Noah. He wore old man sweaters from Goodwill and smiled like he was apologizing for it. He transferred in 2 weeks after the trestle night, and Tyler found him. First it was fake nice. Tyler helped him pick up books he'd dropped. Kayla linked arms with him in the cafeteria, whispering things that made him blush. Mitch loomed behind him like a friendly shadow. It was the same pattern. I knew it. One day I saw Noah trip in the hallway, face slamming hard against the floor. Blood. Laughter. Kayla with her phone out filming. He laughed too. A weird, forced chuckle like he thought it was part of some twisted game. And I stood there, watching, fists clenched, saying nothing. 2 weeks passed. Leaves turned red and gold, falling like old memories across the tracks. Then came the tape. Yellow police ribbon stretched across the path to the trestle. A cruiser parked near the brush. Rumors flew faster than truth in Hollow's End. Noah was missing. 2 days later they found him, half buried in the mud under Blackwater Creek. Neck broken. The sheriff said it was an accident. Kids partying, he slipped. Happens. At the memorial they put a photo of Noah on his empty desk. A candle. Some dumb poem printed off the internet. Wes sat next to me in the back row. He didn't cry. He just handed me a folded piece of paper and looked away. Inside it said, "Saw him that night." Tyler dared him. Said water was deep. Noah believed him. I threw up in the boys' bathroom. Because that should have been me. By spring, Tyler was gone. His house was empty, windows boarded up. Word was his parents skipped town. Foreclosure papers fluttered in the breeze. Kayla tried to stay queen bee, but without Tyler, the throne was empty. Mitch transferred out. The crew unraveled. And me? I disappeared in a different way. No more friends to lose. No more hope to cling to. Except Wednesday. We started eating lunch behind the gym, where no one bothered us. He taught me how to fix busted speakers, old radios. We sold stuff online, stashing the money in a coffee can under his bed labeled Get Out Fund. We didn't talk about Noah much, but we always knew. Some nights I sat by the creek, notebook in hand. I wrote stories where the quiet kids got powers, where the weird ones lived, where the bridge never took anyone. Years passed. I got out, journalism degree, a job in Philly, writing pieces nobody reads about towns nobody visits. One Tuesday, a postcard showed up on my desk. It was a picture of a greasy motorcycle, parked in front of a garage with the sign Wes's Custom Works. On the back, just one line. Still think about Noah. We got lucky. I stared at it for a long time. My phone buzzed beside me. Still wrapped in the cracked case Wes fixed back in 10th grade. Some kids don't survive the fall. Some kids never make it off the trestle. And some, they crawl out bloodied but breathing. Sometimes the ones we ignore are the only ones telling the truth. The need to belong can blind you to danger, but real friends don't come with conditions. Listen to the quiet voices. They're often the only ones trying to save you. My name's Dylan Pierce. I was 30 and working the overnight restock at the Walmart Supercenter in Flagstaff. I liked the quiet hum of empty aisles, the rhythm of unpacking boxes beneath flickering lights, and the sense of peace at 3 a.m. when the world outside was asleep. That was until I met her. It was December 4th. Around 3:12 a.m., I rounded the corner of frozen foods, case after case of ice cream and veggies, and saw a little girl. She wore a faded purple jacket that looked too warm for indoors and clutched a worn teddy bear. She stood alone, frozen like she belonged there, face solemn. I froze, felt an immediate knot of dread. She tugged on my vest, small hand, timid. "I can't find my mom. Can you help me?" Her voice wasn't a hallucination. It was soft, scared, real. "Of course," I said, crouching level with her. She sniffed and nodded, blue eyes wide under fluorescent glare. I radioed my supervisor, telling them I found a child by frozen food. When I looked up again, she was gone. One moment she was there, the next she stepped into aisle 19 and disappeared into the darkness between shelves taller than my head. I ran after her, heart in my throat. But the aisle was empty, silent except for the overhead AC hum. No teddy bear, no footprints, just emptiness. I brushed off the adrenaline as a misunderstanding. Maybe she sneaked off with her parents, but I couldn't shake the chill in my bones. That night, loneliness settled in the cold concrete floor, because something about that little girl felt wrong, and I was already too deep. The next night, I stayed late, even after shift ended, just walking frozen food aisles to clear my head. It was after 3 a.m. when I saw her again. That same purple jacket. She stood across the ice cream freezers, only in peripheral vision. I turned fast, blinked. She vanished. Each night at approximately the same time, I'd sense someone watching, tiny footsteps scuffling behind me, a whisper of fabric. I never caught her on camera. Our store's security coverage skipped dead zones, backstock areas, corners behind the extra freezer units, places too remote to justify a camera. My coworkers started noticing my tension. One night I was found in the pet aisle, whispering to thin air. I don't remember doing it, but I said something. I'm sure of it. They said, hallucinations from exhaustion. So I slept less, worked more. I ran scanner checks with trembling fingers. Every frozen case threatened to freeze me in my tracks. Then instability started leaking into my life. I lay awake catching breath in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. My dreams were always that little girl's face, silent, ignoring the refrigerator lights. Eyes pleading help me, but no one there to hear. Weeks passed. My anxiety escalated, so I searched the store's shared drive to see if there were reports of lost children or incidents. Among delivery logs and inventory mayhem, I found it. A 2012 incident report marked confidential, no staff notification. A 7-year-old girl named Maddie Ray Daniels had gone missing near the expired goods freezer. Security found her dead behind that very corner. Hypothermia. No announcement. No alarm announcement. Just a pocket file nobody talked about. My heart froze. That was the spot. Aisle 19. Behind the freezer I passed nightly. I printed the report pages, hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped the photocopied sheets. Maddie's name stared back at me. A face, tiny and pale. My stomach clenched. I wanted to laugh, or cry, maybe both. How could they bury that? How could they leave a child to die in a silent corner while the store stayed open through the night? I showed it to my supervisor. She looked torn. That was years ago. Corporate said not to. But I saw her, I said. My voice cracked. She nodded slowly. We'll escalate it, she whispered. I couldn't sleep after that. Sleep was betrayal. It let time pass while she remained trapped. So I went back. I walked to the frozen food corner by aisle 19. The freezer's hum sounded unnatural, deeper, heavier. My flashlight came out. I shoved boxes aside, shone the beam where she had stood. The air grew, colder. My breath condensed at chest level. My light flickered. I felt a presence behind me, a whisper in intimate proximity. You promised you'd help me. I spun. Nothing but cold air and the echo of my heartbeat. I whispered back, I promise. I'll help you. The store intercom crackled. Someone called my name. Reality intervened. I left. Every step dragging with guilt, fear, exhaustion. That night, I packed up my things, submitted resignation the following morning. Weeks later, life outside those doors felt hollow. But the nightmare didn't end. One evening I had to return for dog food. I passed through again, heart thudding. I almost convinced myself I wouldn't see her. But at aisle 19, I caught sight of a little girl in a purple jacket clutching a teddy bear. I froze. She smiled at me, soft, sad, then walked away. I stood there, chest tight. My promise hung in the fluorescent air. Compassion demands action, even when no one else believes. Silence about tragedy doesn't erase it. Listen to the voices that whisper in the margins. Some children, especially those long gone, wait for someone who'll keep their promise. Help can transcend life and death, and a silent apology in the cold may be the only thing that brings peace. They told me I'd notice her eventually. I was barely 2 weeks into my new waitress job at Sunny Skillet when Gina, one of the older waitresses who'd been there longer than some of the kitchen pans, nodded toward booth 6 with her chin. See her? That's Doreen. Wednesdays. 2 black coffees. Always the same. I followed her gaze. A woman in her 50s sat there, posture perfect, purse perched on the vinyl beside her like it had its own seat. In front of her, 2 steaming mugs, one held between her weathered fingers, the other untouched. She waitin' on someone? I asked. Nope, Gina said, popping her gum. Never has. But don't ask. She's harmless, tips well, and doesn't need us poking around. So I didn't, not at first. Every Wednesday, 3 p.m. she came in, sat in booth 6, ordered 2 coffees, stayed for maybe 45 minutes, eyes drifting to the door like clockwork every time the chime rang. The second cup always went cold. She never looked sad, but she never looked happy either. Just waiting. After a while, I started saving her booth when I was on shift. I made sure the coffee was hot. I stopped pretending I wasn't curious, and I started wondering, who was that second cup for? It was late spring when I finally asked. A storm had just passed, and the cafe was nearly empty. The air smelled like wet grass and burnt toast. Doreen was there, like always, booth 6. Her hands cupped around one mug while the other cooled, untouched. I was wiping the counter when something just made me do it. I grabbed the fresh pot, walked over, topped her off, and softly said, "Expecting someone today?" Her eyes snapped up to mine, wide and panicked. I instantly regretted it. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her chin trembled. Then she started to cry. Not loud or messy, but silent, tear after tear crying, like her body had been holding it in for years. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean—" "No," she said quickly, voice shaky. "No, it's okay." She wiped her cheeks with a napkin. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Eli, my son. He got out about 3 months ago. I hadn't heard from him in years. Then I got a letter." She reached into her purse and pulled out a creased envelope, running her fingers over the handwriting like it was sacred. He wrote, "Maybe I'll find you again. Wednesdays still work." That second cup? It was for him. I couldn't stop thinking about her. That night I sat down with my laptop and wrote a blog post. Nothing dramatic, just honest. I changed her name, called her M, said she was a woman who waited every week for a son she might never see again. That the second coffee stayed full, that hope could fit inside a porcelain mug. I posted it on Medium, went to bed, thought maybe 10 people would read it. By noon the next day it had over 40,000 views. The cafe's phone rang off the hook. Someone from the local paper wanted to interview the woman in booth 6. Instagram pages reposted it with captions like, "Heartbreaking story in a small Georgia diner." Hashtags trended. TikTokers made sad montages using photos of old cafes and piano covers of pop songs. People started showing up. Not for the food, not even for the story, but for her. Some took photos near her booth. Others sat in it when she wasn't there, hoping she'd arrive. A few left $2 under their coffee like they were part of something bigger than themselves. And the worst part? Doreen didn't know. Not yet. The next Wednesday was chaos. By 2:30, we had a line of people out the door, all murmuring about the coffee lady. One group of teens brought a ring light. A woman in yoga pants asked if we sold merch with her quote on it. I didn't even know which quote she meant. I kept checking the door, heart thudding. At 3:05, Doreen walked in. She froze. Her face, usually so composed, collapsed into quiet panic. Her eyes scanned the crowded diner, phones, cameras, whispering. Someone actually gasped when she walked toward booth 6. Then she turned. Didn't sit, didn't speak. She just walked back out the door. I chased her outside. "Doreen, wait, please." She stopped on the curb, eyes brimming. "You told them?" she asked. Not angry, just broken. "I didn't use your name," I said. "I didn't think it would. I was just trying to." Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to be a story. I just wanted to wait." Then she was gone. She never came back. I waited the next Wednesday, and the one after that. Booth 6 stayed empty. For a while, people kept asking. Then it faded. The internet moved on. The viral blog got buried under the next tragedy of the week, but not me. I never deleted the post. I added an update. I said she'd stopped coming. That sometimes when you shine a spotlight, all you do is blind someone who never asked for attention. We still keep her favorite booth open on Wednesdays. We still brew 2 black coffees at 3 p.m. Some weeks, someone leaves $2 beneath the second cup. I never see who, but I always hope it's him. Not every act of kindness needs an audience. Sometimes the quietest hopes are the most sacred, and turning someone's private pain into a public spectacle only steals what little peace they have left. Let people wait in peace. Let stories stay theirs. When I moved to Richmond, I wasn't chasing dreams. I was running from disappointment. A breakup that left me hollow. A lease I couldn't afford, and a job market that seemed allergic to resumes. I landed the overnight shift at Walmart almost by accident. The posting said, "Returns Associate, immediate start." I applied at 2 a.m. during a bowl of cereal and got hired 2 days later. Night shift had its perks. No crowds. No corporate nonsense breathing down your neck. I liked the routine. Clock in at 10 o'clock, sort refunds, restock, and answer the occasional question about expired coupons or where the rice cookers were. It was simple, predictable, safe, but predictable gets lonely. After months of talking only to coworkers, my cat, Olive, and whatever customer returned an air fryer at 3 a.m., I gave in to the boredom and downloaded PairUp, a dating app. One of those newer ones with little voice prompts and cute compatibility quizzes. I wasn't looking for a soulmate, just a reason to smile between shifts. That's where I met Nathan Riddle. He was kind, a little shy in his messages, but thoughtful. Always asking how my night was. Said he worked late hours too, doing freelance design. His profile pic showed a guy in a dark hoodie with a crooked smile. Not model handsome, but soft. Normal. We messaged for 3 weeks straight. No pressure, no weird pickup lines. Just casual banter and silly memes. He even joked once about showing up at Walmart just to surprise me. I laughed it off. I wish I hadn't. I saw him the first time by self-checkout. It was just past 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday. We were dead slow. 3 carts in the entire store. I'd just finished restocking bins behind the service counter and was stepping out to get a water when I caught someone standing by the clearance rack. He wasn't shopping, just standing. Gray hoodie, hands in his pockets, smiling directly at me. And it was him, Nathan. My heart hiccuped. That moment where your mind tries to convince you it's a coincidence. Maybe he lives nearby. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's just someone who looks like... He raised a hand. Just a little wave. Not dramatic, like we'd been expecting each other. I didn't wave back. I turned, went behind the counter, and tried to swallow the sudden lump in my throat. When I peeked again, he was gone. I didn't sleep when I got home that morning. I sat at the kitchen table, Olive curled by my feet, staring at our old message thread on PairUp. Wish I could see you in real life sometime. He hadn't asked where I worked. I never mentioned it. I unmatched him, deleted the app, told myself maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe he just got lucky. Maybe I posted a photo in uniform once and he figured it out. People are curious, right? But then the notes started showing up. The first was under my keyboard at returns. You looked tired last night. Long shift? The handwriting was small, neat. Black ink on a yellow post-it. I didn't tell anyone right away. I wasn't sure what to say. But when I got back from break the next night and found a still warm cappuccino at my station, caramel swirl, no sugar, exactly how I like it, I knew I wasn't imagining things. I finally told my shift lead, Amanda. She raised an eyebrow, sipped her Diet Coke, and said, "Yeah, that's odd. But customers get weird sometimes. You sure it wasn't someone just being flirty?" "I never told anyone where I work," I said. "Not online, not on the app." Amanda shrugged. "Cameras are up. If anything happens, we'll catch it." That was the end of the conversation. No follow-up, no offer to check footage. Just weird customer stuff. A few nights later, I walked out to the parking lot after my shift. The air was cold enough to sting. I was halfway to my car when I noticed something taped to the windshield. A single sheet of paper. I stopped, stomach already turning. I didn't want to look, but I had to. It was a screenshot, my old PairUp profile. Same photo, me in the sunflower hoodie, grinning in front of my fridge. But now, someone had drawn a heart around my face, red ink, like a Valentine. I ripped it off and locked myself in the car, hands shaking. I didn't drive home for almost 20 minutes. Just sat there, staring at the entrance, trying to see if anyone was watching. I filed a report with store management the next day. Then I went to the police. Walmart said the camera footage near the parking lot glitched that night. Of course it did. The police were sympathetic but honest. Without proof, they couldn't do much. Nathan's profile? Gone. Wiped like it never existed. I called out for a week, took Olive and stayed with a friend across town. When I came back, I transferred stores within a month. A new Walmart, new co-workers, new routine, but not a new me. The new store was fine, clean, brighter, less lonely. I told no one about what happened, but I couldn't shake the habits. Checking my car windows before getting in, glancing behind me while returning bins, starting and ending each shift with a quiet inventory of everyone who came near me. For a while, things were okay. Until 2 months in, I found a folded note between the stacked receipt rolls. "Still think about you, always." It was the same handwriting, no name, no fingerprint, just those quiet, awful words. I didn't tell anyone, not that time. What would I say? That a man I matched with once, a man no one else could even verify existed, was following me across counties, leaving little whispers behind? The notes kept showing up, every few weeks, always short, always placed where only I would find them. "You looked lonely. Miss our chats. Some things are meant to be." They weren't threatening, not technically, just close, too close, intimate in a way that felt invasive. I never saw him again, not face to face, not like that night by self-checkout. But I feel him, like a phantom presence that never leaves, like something waiting patiently for the right moment to reach out again. Now I work day shifts. I keep my phone number private. I don't post selfies. I don't date. I deleted every app that might lead someone to me. Olive and I live in a second-floor apartment with 3 locks on the door. I don't go anywhere without checking the rearview mirror at least twice. People tell me I'm paranoid. Maybe I am. But here's the thing. They weren't there. They didn't feel what it was like to be chosen by someone who never had your permission to care. Every now and then, a new associate will ask, "Why'd you leave Richmond?" I smile and say, "Needed a change." I never say the rest, that I was followed, that I still am, maybe, because some people don't come charging out of the dark. They walk into your life slowly, carefully, like it was meant to be. Romantic interest becomes obsession the moment it ignores consent. Always trust your instincts. Protect your boundaries, even when the danger doesn't look dangerous. Because the scariest stalkers don't wear masks, they wear smiles. I didn't expect our small Denver cafe to become a drama scene, but life is full of surprises. I'm Claire, a literature graduate working coffee shifts and applying for editorial internships. My co-workers and I shared playlists during closing shifts, swapped book recs during the rush. It felt familiar and safe. That changed when Jamie arrived. Quiet kid, late 20s, covered in music tattoos, mostly sleeve and forearm ink. Dark eyes, soft-spoken. At first he was just that new guy, polite, helpful, a bit awkward. I smiled when he asked for my Spotify login. We bonded over post-rock and poetry. It was normal camaraderie. Then, one morning after a slow shift, a customer left a Google review. Jamie's drink was wrong. Service felt cold. Harmless, right? He took it to heart. He stared at my barista apron like it was lit on fire. He muttered under his breath, "They always like your drinks." "You're trying to make me look bad." I laughed it off his nerves. I told him, "It's just coffee, man. Customers have feelings." He nodded but didn't say more. He had dark circles under his eyes that week. Looked like he wasn't sleeping. Over the next few days, things got weird. One afternoon, I was deep into stacking muffins behind the pastry case. I caught him, phone tipped slightly, filming me. I confronted him. "Jamie, what are you doing?" He half lifted his phone. "Just some proof," he whispered. "Proof of what?" "Don't smile while you're doing it," he replied. I felt cold. What the hell does that even mean? He looked away. "They think you're perfect, but I see what you're doing." We didn't work for a secret society, but he was acting like we did, like I was pulling strings. I stepped away, felt my chest tighten. He mumbled apologies, said he'd delete it. I believed him, sort of. Then came the worst part. I'd dropped my bag behind the counter and gone to the back for a clean apron. When I returned, he was rifling through my locker, gloves on, rifling through my stuff like he owned it. "What are you doing?" I asked, shaken. He looked up, pale and rigid. "You laughed at me in my dream. I know what that means." By that point, I was a bundle of nerves. I took my locker combo off, removed valuables, set a coded padlock. That night, I texted my boss. "Jamie's crossed a line. I found him in my locker." The manager, Ben, was sympathetic, took me aside the next morning. I gave my statement. HR suspended Jamie pending investigation. But there wasn't enough to fire him. No threats, no violence, just weird and creepy. I came in that afternoon and he was gone. But his presence lingered. The silence behind the counter, the way the armoire looked. I'd walk in and half expect him to be there. Then I found his Reddit. I'd noticed an account, u/Jamie Writes, with threads about the perfect coworker he can't stand. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. When I looked, dozens of posts were dedicated to me. "Claire smiles too much. She's always judging. Maybe she's setting me up." He'd twisted daily details, my lunch order, my jokes, into malicious narratives. His followers responded, "She's undermining you. Call her out." One wrote, "He's a nice guy. That's obsession, not love." I messaged HR again. They blocked his access to internal systems, but Reddit, outside their reach. One afternoon, I started getting voicemails. Silent, 10 seconds, blocked number. I sat in my apartment, phone clutched, stomach plummeting. I ended up changing my number, deleting my Reddit profile, deleting old posts. Still, I couldn't stop checking u/Jamie Writes just in case. 3 weeks later, I resigned. I found a remote editing job, further from cafe familiarity, further from unanswered concerns. Ever since, I can only recall our last shifts in fragments, the hiss of the steamer, The soft clack of papers as he riffling my locker, the way he whispered in my dream. I don't know where he is now. He might have moved on, left the city, or maybe he's still out there, fighting his demons. I still check Reddit sometimes, but I've built new habits, something I call digital boundaries. No public presence. I use an alias. I don't connect my real name to online food orders or review sites. I lock the lockers tightly. I know I could have stayed, but sometimes walking away is what safety looks like. Trust your instincts, even when threats aren't obvious. Repeated intrusion, emotional manipulation, and stalking matter and deserve action. Boundaries aren't optional. They're essential to protect who you are and what you deserve. I never thought I'd be living in a van at 36, hidden in the far corner of a Walmart supercenter parking lot. But after the divorce and the catering business tanked, my options ran out. My name's Carmen Ruiz, and back then, my world had shrunk to the night shift, a locker, and a seat that reclined just enough to pass for a bed. It wasn't the worst setup. The lot cameras were decent. The store's Wi-Fi barely reached, but it gave me something to stream on my cracked phone. Most people didn't know, and that's how I liked it. Well, most people except Chad. He was the janitor. 50-something, greasy ball cap always pulled low, gray goatee stained from too much vending machine coffee. He never said much at first. Just nodded, maybe asked how the night was going. But then it started. I'd walk through the employee entrance, and there he'd be, mopping the floor like he'd been waiting. "You staying warm?" he'd ask. Or, "That coat of yours looks too thin for this weather." He always smiled when he said it, but not the kind of smile that made you feel safe. I tried to ignore him, kept to myself. I was too tired to make waves. Then one morning, after a particularly long shift restocking seasonal clearance junk, I walked out to my van and found a piece of paper tucked under my wiper. Handwritten in blocky, uneven letters, "You don't have to sleep out here. I've got heat." My stomach dropped. There was no name, but I didn't need one. It was Chad. That night, I parked 3 blocks away behind a closed bank and walked in with my hoodie pulled up. But he still found me. He always did. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just weird anymore, it was dangerous. I tried to downplay it for a while, told myself I was overreacting. He hadn't done anything, technically. Just some notes. Lingering glances. Standing too close when the break room was already empty. But it was the consistency that rattled me. I'd be clocking in and see him refilling soap by the sink, folding paper towels like a surgeon preparing for operation, always with that quiet, watchful look. "Rough night?" he'd ask, like we were friends. I kept replies short. "Yep, busy," or "fine." And I'd keep moving. Then he started noticing my clothes, noticing when I wore my fleece-lined leggings under the uniform pants. "Nice touch," he said once with a grin. "Bet that keeps you real warm." My skin crawled. I told my supervisor, Melinda, during our 5-minute check-in. She was mid-20s, overwhelmed, and always behind on paperwork. I could tell she didn't want the extra trouble. "Have you told him to stop?" she asked. "I haven't exactly invited it," I said. "He's watching me, leaving notes. It's not right." She sighed. "Okay, I'll talk to him. Just, let's not make this a whole thing unless it gets worse, all right?" That talk must have happened because 2 nights later, Chad didn't say a word. Just walked past me near the staff lockers, mop handle bouncing on his shoulder, face unreadable. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hunted. The break room was next to receiving, just beyond where the forklift guys parked their pallets. The door had always stuck a little, but that night when I went in for my midnight break, it clicked shut, louder than usual. I pulled the handle. It didn't budge. I pulled again. Nothing. The light flicked off. At first, I thought maybe the bulb blew. Then I heard it, keys jangling. Slowly, like someone taking their time. My hands trembled. "Hey! Who's out there?" I shouted. No answer, just that soft, metallic rhythm. Ch-ch-ch-ch. I started pounding. "Open the door! Open the damn door!" Seconds later, the door burst open from the outside. Tony from Dry Goods had heard me and yanked it open with a panicked look. There was no one in the hall. But the security camera outside? It was twisted to face the cinder block wall. That was the night I stopped pretending this wasn't real. The store changed after that. Not visibly. To most folks, it was business as usual. Stock the shelves, count the overstock, make it to payday. But to me, every creak in the building felt loaded. I started tracking where Chad was at all times. He never said another word to me, not directly. But I'd see him, just standing, watching. HR finally got involved after I filed an official complaint, citing the incident with the break room door, the turned camera, and the prior notes. Their response? "We'll conduct an internal investigation." 2 days later, I was called into the office. "Chad is no longer with the company," they said. No details, no apology, no police follow-up, just gone. I kept asking myself, what would have happened if Tony hadn't been there? If I hadn't screamed loud enough? If I hadn't already been scared enough to notice things? I knew the answer. Deep down, I think I always knew. My shifts felt longer after that. I barely ate. The cold seemed to seep into my bones no matter how many layers I wore. One night, in the middle of zoning aisle 7, I caught myself crying quietly, cans of beans blurring through my tears. I didn't want to be tough anymore. I just wanted to be safe. In January, I found a women's shelter on the edge of town. It wasn't perfect. 4 bunks to a room, strict curfew, but it was indoors, warm, and the doors locked from the inside. The first night I stayed there, I slept straight through for the first time in weeks. I gave my 2 weeks' notice the next day. Nobody asked why. Melinda nodded and said, "I get it." That was it. No one ever really acknowledged what had happened. Not to me. Not publicly. Chad became just another name scrubbed from the payroll system. A ghost in steel-toed boots. But I carried it. The fear didn't leave just because the name tag did. Even now, I still flinch when I hear keys clinking behind me. I always check store ceilings for cameras and make sure they're facing the right way. I never sit with my back to a hallway. That's just how it is now. You live through something like that, and the world never feels unarmed again. Some nights I lie awake in my shelter bunk, listening to the distant sound of footsteps in the hall, and wonder how many other women are out there, like me, holding their breath, hoping someone believes them before it's too late. Not everyone gets a Tony. Not everyone escapes before the door clicks shut. That's why I'm telling this. Because someone will read it at 3 a.m. in a quiet back room. Because maybe you felt eyes where there shouldn't be any. Maybe someone smiled too long, asked too much. Maybe you've doubted yourself like I did. Don't. Trust your gut. Keep records. Speak loud, even when they call it drama. Because the break room door should always open from the inside. And no one should have to scream just to be heard. Believe women when they speak. Silence is what predators count on. Indifference is what enables them. Real safety begins when we stop protecting reputations and start protecting people. Don't wait for a locked door to take someone seriously. I'd been working at the downtown coffee shop for 6 months when everything started to feel off. My name's Jaya. I'm 24, balancing barista shifts with evening design courses. The shop is a familiar hangout for students, freelancers, and influencers, pastel-walled, Edison-lit, steeped in vanilla and espresso. I liked the vibe. Friendly coworkers, familiar customers. It was simple, until Alex joined. He showed up during training, taller than most baristas, with a warm smile and better genes than mine. Charming, enthusiastic, double-tapped my Instagram feed by the end of shift 1. His texts were long, wallpapered with haha and emojis, but I shrugged it off. Friendly boundaries. I followed back to be polite. We chatted. He asked for coffee tips, watched me make drinks, complimented my latte art. On his first night shift, he gave me a hug at the end of service. I laughed. Need to tone it down, I said. Dude, you're new. He shrank back. I thought he understood. But I didn't know how much he didn't. The texts began after hours. Just saw your story. It spoke to me. Hey, you awake? 2:14 a.m. I feel like we connect. You make me feel less alone. I smiled at first, but answered carefully. Thanks, I'm sleeping. There are plenty of people here who care. Hey, I'm not available. But he'd send again at 6:30 a.m. Good morning. It wouldn't stop. His messages got longer. Confessionals. No one understands me like you. I pour everything into your presence. He'd ask about my weekends, scent, favorite coffee, like he was mapping me. Do you always wear grapefruit on Fridays? He texted. I deleted that one. Offline, it leaked into shifts. He'd show up 30 minutes early, hover near the break room until I arrived, sometimes stand behind me in line when I wasn't working. Ask, how are you sleeping? You look tired. I started nodding politely, avoiding eye contact. All the signs were flickering red. Too late. I blocked him on Instagram, deleted his number, thought it was done. Until break one afternoon. I peeked out the back door to smoke. Found him leaning on the dumpster, voice shaking. Why would you hurt someone like that, after everything I gave you? The world froze. His face was torn, pained. I felt nothing. Disbelief. I'm sorry, he whispered, but his breath smelled of cheap cologne and desperation. Leave me alone, I said, voice tight. Then I walked back inside. My hand shook behind the register. I told the manager, Alex, HR was called. Alex was fired 5 minutes later. But I didn't feel safe. He was gone, for one day. Then came the fake accounts. Guess who? Still thinking of you. Remember the mornings? I flagged them, blocked them, but they kept coming. HR said it wasn't illegal unless he directly threatened me or physically followed me. Legally fine, emotionally devastating. I deleted Instagram, not for attention, but for safety. I changed my route home, walked with my phone in both hands, checked alleys and cars. Night shifts became unbearable. If the door chimed at 2 p.m., I'd jump. I told no one. My roommates thought I was burned out. I didn't correct them. I dealt with the panic attacks alone. I quit the job 2 weeks later. Now I work freelance. I don't post photos of my life. My follower count stays low. I walk streets fully scanned. I delete notifications if they're late night. I think about Alex sometimes. Maybe he's okay. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he needed help. None of that excuses his behavior. I also think about boundaries. I wish I'd been firm earlier, told him flat out. But when kindness becomes expectation, when presence becomes possession, it's a warning. Now if someone looks too friendly too soon, I walk away. Not to punish them, but to protect myself. Kindness is voluntary, and withdrawing it isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. Boundaries aren't optional. Respect grows from consent, not presumption. When affection turns into ownership, it's time to walk away before kindness becomes a cage. I don't sleep much these days. Been that way since senior year of high school. Just this kind of constant buzzing in my head. Sometimes it's thoughts, sometimes it's nothing at all, but it's always there. Just loud enough to keep me staring at the ceiling till 3 or 4 a.m. That's how I ended up working the graveyard shift at the Lantern Grill, this rundown 24/7 diner on the edge of Brookfield, Missouri. It's wedged between a shuttered Shell station and a blinking motel that smells like mildew and regret. I'm 21, part-time student, full-time burnout. Community college felt like the only move after I crashed and burned freshman year at Mizzou. The Lantern isn't glamorous. Cheap tile floors, warped tabletops, buzzing fluorescent lights. But it's quiet at night. Usually just me, a mop bucket, and an old country playlist humming through the ceiling speakers. Some nights we get truckers passing through or kids looking for milkshakes after a concert. But most of the time, I'm alone. I keep my earbuds in, wipe the same counters twice, count the same $10 in tips, and try to convince myself I'm doing something useful. That Tuesday night started like all the others. I clocked in at midnight. Becky from the evening shift gave me a nod, and the cook in the back, Harold, was already half asleep in the supply closet. He always took extended breaks once the rush died. By 12:20, the place was empty, and then he walked in. Thin, pale guy, late 30s maybe. Sweat gleamed on his forehead even though it was freezing outside. No coat, just a faded gray hoodie and jeans that sagged off his frame. At first I thought he was a delivery guy. He didn't even look at me, just walked straight behind the counter like he worked there. Hey, I said, taking out one earbud. Can I help you? Nothing. No eye contact, no reaction. He moved toward the fridge, pulled it open, and grabbed a bottle of ketchup like he'd done it 1,000 times. Then, without hesitation, unscrewed the top and gagged into it. I thought I was seeing things. He hunched over like his stomach was turning inside out and started vomiting into the ketchup bottle. Not violently, but slow, controlled, like he wanted to make sure it all went in. I stepped back, hand half raised. Hey man, what the hell? Still no response. He screwed the cap back on like he was tightening a soda, then placed the bottle gently in the condiment bin beside the others. That's when I noticed his hands. Trembling, twitching, but precise. Like someone performing surgery on autopilot. He reached over, grabbed a plate from the stack, scooped a serving of fries, and squirted the tainted ketchup onto the plate. Not randomly either. He smeared it in slow, perfect circles, muttering under his breath. I couldn't make out what he was saying. It sounded like gibberish, or maybe a chant. A rhythm. Like someone reciting a recipe backward. I looked toward the back kitchen door. No sign of Harold. I grabbed the wall phone beside the register, tried to dial out, but the line was dead. Typical for our piece of junk landline. I considered grabbing my cell, but it was still in my backpack in the office. That's when I took a step forward. My voice was shaky. Sir, you need to leave now. He turned to me, eyes glassy, not mad, just vacant. It's not safe, he whispered. Not safe to leave food unfinished. Then, without warning, he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a box cutter. Didn't raise it, just held it at his side, blade open, arm shaking. My body froze. His voice barely rose above the hum of the lights. They come when the food's cold. You can't leave it cold. He took a step forward, and I bolted. I slipped on a patch of grease by the fryer and almost ate tile. My hand scrambled for the side door handle, and I burst out into the cold. Air hit my face like ice. I ran behind the building, heart pounding, legs shaky, and crouched behind the dumpster. Fumbled my phone out of my pocket, fingers numb, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a guy inside the Lantern Grill. He broke in or something. He's got a blade. He's not right. I peeked through the kitchen window. He was still at the counter, smiling now, humming, packing ketchup into to-go containers like he was prepping orders. Red streaks all over the floor. His hands moved in smooth motions like a machine. He's filling containers, I whispered. With that stuff, he threw up in the ketchup. Sirens wailed in the distance. Then, headlights. A Cisco delivery truck pulled into the lot. The driver slammed the brakes and jumped out when he saw me waving like a lunatic. The man inside must have heard the screech because he darted out the front entrance, screaming nonsense. The flavor's wrong. It's still wrong. The driver, big guy in a Carhartt vest, reacted fast, tackled him on the curb like a linebacker. The box cutter skidded into the parking lot. Cops arrived seconds later, guns drawn, EMTs behind them. They cuffed the guy who didn't fight, just kept mumbling about ingredients and preservatives. He was still humming as they lifted him into the ambulance. The cops questioned me for half an hour. I told them everything. One officer, older guy, must have known the town longer than I had, shook his head and muttered, "Damn. That poor bastard." "What do you mean?" I asked. He sighed. Name's Lenny Cortland. Used to work here. Maybe 2 years ago. Night shift. Good kid. Bit strange. But nothing dangerous. Then one night, boom. Total breakdown during lunch rush. Said the soda syrup was talking to him. Started throwing forks at the window. They fired him the next day. I blinked. No one ever told me. Probably didn't want to scare you off the job. Turns out Lenny had been squatting in an abandoned house a few blocks over. No family around, no meds. Slipped through the cracks like so many do. Becky joked about it when she came back in. You see the ketchup bottle? Wonder if he seasoned it. I didn't laugh. I threw it away myself, wrapped it in 3 layers of trash bags and buried it in the outside bin. I never told her about the smell, about how it lingered on the counter even after bleach. Something sickly sweet like rotten tomatoes and bile. I quit night shift 2 days later. Told my manager I had classes in the morning. That was half true. The other half was that I couldn't be in that building after midnight without feeling like someone was watching from behind the fridge. Like a shadow would slide out from the condiment bin any minute. I still eat out sometimes. Diner food, gas station burgers, late night Waffle House. Can't help myself. But I check the ketchup bottle every single time. I twist the cap, check the seal. Twice, just in case. Mental illness doesn't always wear a warning sign. The people we forget, the quiet, the odd, the discarded, don't disappear. They just go unseen. And sometimes they come back, not to hurt us, but because they were hurting the whole time. I always thought Harvey's Corner was a good place to start. Small town West Virginia, tucked in between a rundown car wash and a movie theater still playing films 2 weeks late. Harvey's was the kind of diner where old men drank black coffee at 6 a.m., and teenagers clocked in right after school, still in their sneakers and work uniforms from second jobs. For me, it was just supposed to be a summer thing. One last push before college, a way to earn enough to buy bedding, maybe a mini fridge. I wasn't aiming for glory, I just needed a paycheck. I was hired on as a dishwasher, nothing fancy. Scrub, rinse, repeat. Most days I kept to myself, headphones in when I could sneak them, smile small and quiet. I didn't want trouble, just hours. Tony was my manager, 36, ball cap always turned backward, sleeves rolled up like he was still a teenager himself. He called everyone kiddo or sweetheart, sometimes smacked people lightly on the shoulder or back as he passed. To the others he was chill, a guy who let you sneak out early if you had a date or covered if your drawer came up short. To me, he was off. Too close sometimes, always asking questions. You seeing anyone? What school are you going to again? You ever go to that bar on 9th? You could totally pass for 21. I kept answers short. Smiled when I had to, stayed late when asked. I thought if I worked hard, stayed respectful, I'd be left alone. I was wrong. It was a Sunday night in July, dead quiet, like most Sundays. I'd finished up dishes early and was refilling sanitizer buckets when Tony popped his head into the back. Closing's done, you coming with us? I blinked. Where? Bar on 9th, he said. Just a few of us. Chill night. You in? I hesitated. I'm only 18. He smirked. Pfft, no one checks. Come on, live a little. I shook my head. Nah, I'm good. Got an early start tomorrow. He held the stare a moment longer, then laughed. Your loss. They left 10 minutes later. I finished up alone, locked up. My ID was still in my locker. I always left it there during shifts because the pockets in my jeans were too shallow and I didn't want it to fall into a sink. The next morning, I showed up early, still damp hair, nervous about an interview I had at the campus housing office after my shift. That's when the regional supervisor was waiting in the office with a clipboard and a tight frown. Rhea, she said, we need to talk. I sat down in the cramped back office with a stomach like wet concrete. There was an incident last night, the supervisor said. A minor traffic collision involving a vehicle driven by someone who claimed to be you. What? They used your name, your driver's license. The police report's already on file. But I wasn't there, I said quickly. I went straight home. She raised an eyebrow. Your clock-out time shows 11:14 p.m. The report was filed at 11:21. My voice cracked. My ID was in my locker. I didn't give it to anyone, I wasn't even with them. The room was cold. Her tone never changed. Unfortunately, until this is sorted out, we're placing you under investigation. We have to follow protocol. Check the cameras, I said. You'll see I left alone. You'll see someone take my... She cut me off. The security system glitched. No footage was saved from last night. I left the office shaking. My hands wouldn't stop. I texted 2 of the girls I'd worked with. No reply. No one met my eyes that shift. Tony didn't show up. Not that night. Not the next one either. When I tried to call, it went straight to voicemail. It wasn't until Thursday that someone broke the silence. Madison, server, 20, with chipped red nails and an attitude tougher than steel wool, found me on break in the alley behind the diner. "Hey," she said, lighting a cigarette. "You still under review?" I nodded. She looked both ways, then pulled out her phone. "Don't show anyone I gave you this." It was a short video, shaky, grainy, taken from a staff member's phone. Showed Tony opening my locker, pulling out my ID, laughing with a buddy in a black hoodie. "She won't even know," he said. "She's a ghost in this place anyway." I felt like my bones turned to ice. Madison exhaled. "You're not the first." He used Jenna's name for a fake reference call last year, and he told Brittany he needed her info for a training log. Her name ended up on some account she didn't even know existed. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" I asked. She flicked ash off her sleeve. "Because no one listens to girls like us when we do." HR dropped the review a few days later. I never got an apology. I quit the next morning. What stayed with me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how fast everyone pretended like nothing had happened. Like the name on that ticket hadn't been mine. Like the job wasn't supposed to be safe. I lost my early dorm spot. I missed the deadline by 3 days. They gave it to someone else on the wait list. I moved in late, stuck in temporary housing for 2 weeks, then crammed into a triple that never stopped smelling like old ramen. Tony disappeared. Rumor was he moved to Ohio. Got a job at another diner. New name on the staff list, new batch of kiddos to joke with. I tell people I learned a lot that summer, but what I really learned was this. Sometimes the danger doesn't come from strangers. It wears a name tag. It smiles at you on payday. It tells you to live a little, and if you're quiet enough, polite enough, invisible enough, it takes what it wants and walks away. A job should never cost you your name. Trust is earned, not demanded. And silence isn't professionalism. It's just the sound of someone else's power echoing off the walls. Speak up, even when your voice shakes, especially then. It was one of those nights where nothing's really happening, but you still find yourself staying out too late anyway. We'd left some party near FAMU. Half the people there were already gone by the time we showed up. The music was too loud, beer too warm, and the only food left was half a box of Little Caesars someone dropped on a couch. Me, Leo, Zoe, and Drew ended up leaving around 12:45. Nobody was drunk, just kind of buzzed and full of that loose, nothing matters energy. Drew had borrowed Leo's old mountain bike to get there, said it beat paying for an Uber. We headed to the Wendy's on University, figured we'd grab something before calling it. It was past 1 a.m. when we got there, one of those humid Tallahassee nights where your shirt sticks to your back and the streetlights glow like bug zappers. The place was almost empty. One guy inside half asleep at a booth, a couple employees behind the counter just going through the motions. We ordered, ate, talked about finals, bitched about how broke we all were. Drew tried to get Zoe to rate his Spotify playlist. Leo told a story about the time he got caught plagiarizing a philosophy paper freshman year. Everyone laughed. It felt like any other late-night college stop. Dumb. Easy. Until we stepped back outside. Leo stopped first. He just stood there staring at the bike like he couldn't figure out what he was looking at. The front tire was slashed clean through, spokes bent out like they'd been kicked. Handlebar grips were torn up. Something sharp had scraped across the metal, deep. On the pavement, next to the back wheel, was a used lighter, still warm when Drew picked it up. None of us said anything. We didn't need to. That's when we noticed the guys at the picnic table near the lot. 3 of them, maybe early 20s, smoking. One of them, tall, camo jacket, leaned forward and muttered, not loud but clear enough, "Tell your boy to stop ducking calls next time." Drew froze. Zoe glanced at me. Leo just said, low, "Let's go." And we left. No questions, no arguing, just walked. We walked in silence most of the way back. Leo pushed the bike with one hand, even though the tire barely turned. It kept catching on the frame, grinding. Nobody offered to help. Drew walked behind us, not saying a word. You could feel it off him. His shoulders were tense, head down, like he was hoping nobody said what we were all thinking. We got back to the dorm around 2:40. The common area was empty. Zoe finally broke the silence. "All right," she said, standing in the middle of the room. "Who were they?" Drew didn't answer right away, just rubbed the back of his neck. "Just some guys. I've bought from them before. Weed, that's all." "So what, you owe them money?" Leo asked, flat. Drew let out a short breath. "I was supposed to pay him like a month ago, $30. I kept putting it off. Then I blocked the number. I figured it'd blow over." Leo laughed. "Just once. No humor in it." "So you use my bike and they trash my stuff to send a message?" "I didn't think they'd go that far, man. Number you didn't think at all." Zoe crossed her arms, then dropped them, frustrated. "Jesus, Drew, we hang out there. You didn't think to, I don't know, warn us?" "I didn't know they'd do something like that," he said again, quieter this time. No one said it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing. What if we had come out earlier? What if they hadn't just gone for the bike? Leo just shook his head. He looked tired, more than mad. "Forget it. I'll fix it," Drew said, almost to himself. "Doesn't matter," Leo said, turning away. And that was it. We all went to our rooms. Didn't talk about it again. For the next couple of weeks, things just shifted. Leo ghosted the group chat, didn't show up to Taco Tuesdays, didn't come to study sessions, stopped liking posts on Zoe's Instagram. We didn't talk about it, just let him drift. Drew tried acting normal, but you could tell something was off. He'd flinch a little when his phone buzzed, started carrying pepper spray in his jacket, always looked over his shoulder walking across campus. Zoe deleted a bunch of her old posts, anything with locations tagged. She got real quiet in class. I think she was scared, honestly. Not that something would happen to her, but that we were already too close to whatever this was. Me? I stuck around Drew for a little longer than the others. Maybe because I felt bad. Maybe because I didn't want him to be alone with it. But even I started to back off. You can't sit next to someone once you stop trusting them. Not really. And none of us ever went back to that Wendy's. 3 weeks later, it was almost summer. The heat had gone from annoying to oppressive, and everyone was just trying to make it through finals. I was in our media class. Early morning, low energy. Drew was there too, sitting one row ahead, hood up. Zoe was across the room. Then I saw him. The guy from the Wendy's lot. Same face, same cold stare. He walked into the lecture hall like he'd done it 100 times. Sat 2 rows behind Drew. No bag, no notebook. Just a paper cup of coffee. He didn't say a word, didn't look around, just sat. Drew must have felt it because he turned. Saw him. The guy smiled. Not big, just enough. Like he was letting him know. Still here. Still watching. Drew didn't show up to that class again. We never told campus security. Never filed a report. There wasn't anything solid to report, really. A slashed tire, a look, a smile. But all of us felt it. Every day. Leo transferred out the next semester, said it was for personal reasons. We didn't ask. Zoe dropped most of her in-person classes, started carrying mace, stopped staying out after 9. Drew moved into a different dorm. I think he thought if he changed location, the tension would follow someone else. Me? I still walk past that Wendy's sometimes. I don't go in, don't even look at it too long. But I think about that night every time I see a bike chain or a stranger watching too closely. There's no headline, no crime report. Just a weird, slow fallout none of us really processed. All because one guy thought he could ghost a $30 debt. The smallest choices can leave the biggest cracks. A little silence, a little lie, a little, it's not a big deal, that's all it takes. When you don't own your actions, someone else ends up carrying the weight. Sometimes a tire, sometimes a friendship, sometimes something worse. The day started normal. If you'd told me it would end with my daughter in a hospital bed and my wife packing an overnight bag, I would have thought you were crazy. But that's the thing, right? Nothing ever feels like a breaking point when it starts. It's just one more Saturday. One more stop for cheap food and half-hearted small talk. Marissa had been laid off 2 weeks earlier. Marketing, department-wide cuts. She handled it the way she handles most things. Quiet, sharp, and trying to keep everything looking fine from the outside. But I could feel her slipping, like she was always somewhere else. So I offered to take her and Lena out. Just a simple family outing. Something easy. Familiar. We ended up at Wendy's. I figured it was harmless. Lena loves their chicken nuggets, and I didn't want to make anything worse by picking some fancy place she wouldn't want to be at. Willow Creek Plaza was packed. Soccer moms in yoga pants, dads with Bluetooth headsets, toddlers throwing fries. The whole place smelled like salt and sugar and spring. We sat near the back. Lena played with the ketchup packets while Marissa scrolled through her phone. I tried not to take it personally. Lena giggled while mixing all the dipping sauces together into what she called chicken potion. I remember thinking, God, I needed this. Just 1 hour where no one's mad, no one's crying, no one's worried about mortgage payments or resumes or who left the laundry in too long. She didn't even finish the nuggets. And none of us could have known that something so simple, so stupid, was already inside her, waiting to ruin everything. At 8:47 p.m., Lena threw up in the hallway. She said her tummy hurt. I figured it was too much sauce. Kids get weird with food. We cleaned her up, sat her on the couch, and put on cartoons. Marissa barely said a word, just watched. 20 minutes later, Lena was on the bathroom floor, crying between dry heaves. Then the fever came. At the ER, the doctor said it was foodborne. Likely chicken. Marissa looked at me the second he said it. This sharp, tired look like she'd been expecting it somehow. Like she'd already decided this was on me. We didn't fight. Not really. Just drove home in silence. The kind where even turning on the radio feels wrong. When we got home, I laid Lena down in her room with a cool towel. Marissa stood in the doorway, arms folded. You always go for convenience. What does that mean? It means you pick what's easy, every time. It's always fast food or skipping the oil change or saying it'll work out instead of doing something. I didn't answer. What could I say? She went to the guest room, closed the door behind her. I stayed up on the couch, staring at the Wendy's receipt. It was still in my pocket, crumpled, sweaty, time-stamped, like evidence. Sunday morning I called the Wendy's. Got transferred twice before someone who called herself store leadership answered. She didn't sound older than 20. Sir, we follow strict FDA guidelines. The chicken's pre-cooked and temp-checked. It might have been something from your home. She was fine before that, 6 years old. You think it came from our fridge? We serve hundreds of people a day. Click. I didn't even yell. I just hung up and sat in the garage for a while. Looking at the receipt again, like maybe I missed something. A warning sign. Some red mark telling me, don't do this. Later, I emailed corporate. Sent the timestamp, our order, the location. I attached a picture of Lena's hospital bracelet. They got back 2 days later with a canned response. We've reviewed the situation and found no violations. The issue was likely unrelated to our store. Nothing. Not even an apology. Marissa didn't say, "I told you so." But she didn't need to. That night, Lena asked if we were still a together family. Her words, "still together." I told her yes. I wasn't so sure. The next Friday, Marissa packed a small bag. Just one. She said she needed a few nights at her sister's. Space, she called it. "It's not just the food," she said, standing by the door. "It's everything. It's how you handle things. Or don't." "You're leaving because I picked the wrong lunch spot?" "I'm leaving because you never listen until something breaks." She kissed Lena goodbye. Didn't kiss me. I tried to stay calm, for our daughter. Told myself it'd blow over, that she just needed a weekend. But that bag looked practiced, like it wasn't the first time she'd packed it in her head. After she left, I sat in the car. Glove box open, receipt still there, folded once, then again. It didn't say chicken nuggets, it just said kids meal, like it didn't even matter what it was. Lena bounced back in 3 days. Kids do that. Bounce, recover, forget. But I could feel something different in the house. Not empty, just off balance, like something shifted and we were all pretending it hadn't. Marissa came back that Sunday night. She didn't unpack the bag, just left it by the closet. We didn't argue. We didn't hug. We just moved around each other. Quietly, politely, like roommates. We still haven't gone out to eat since. I still haven't thrown away the receipt. Some part of me wants to keep it, not as proof that Wendy's screwed up. Not anymore. As proof that I did. Sometimes it's not the mistake, it's how many you made before it. The little shortcuts. The choices you made when no one was looking. They pile up. Until one day something snaps, and you learn too late that the real damage wasn't food poisoning. It was trust. People think things only go wrong when the day starts badly. Like the air shifts, or something breaks early on, a spilled coffee, missed call, wrong tone. But this day was just regular. I worked a normal shift, checked some emails, sent a few half-hearted texts to Rena between meetings. We'd argued that morning, something about the dishes, I think. Not even yelling, just quiet sharpness, the kind that sits between two people all day like a weight neither of you wants to lift. Around 7:30, she texted, "Still mad?" "I'm sending you dinner, just chill till I get home." I smirked. That was her way of apologizing. Not with the words, but with something warm and salty in a paper bag. An hour later, the doorbell rang. It was a Wendy's bag, a double-stack combo, Coke with no ice. Exactly how I liked it. And the guy holding it, early 20s maybe, skinny shaggy hair under a red cap. He just nodded when I opened the door. "Appreciate it, man," I said. He lingered a second longer than usual, then said, "You got a nice setup in there." I glanced behind me, TV on, fan going, couch blankets a mess. I laughed. "It's a mess, dude." He just smiled. "I used to live in a place like this. Pasadena Heights, right?" I nodded, a little confused. "You went to Arroyo?" He nodded again. "Last year, poli-sci." That clicked. I remembered him vaguely. The kind of face you recognize but can't name. Something about the conversation felt harmless. Lazy, like we were both too tired to pretend we were strangers. "You want to come in for a sec? It's hot out." He stepped inside, and that was my mistake. He didn't stay long. At least that's what I told Rena later, and what I believed for a while. He stepped in, stood by the door, made a few jokes about how expensive it was getting around Pasadena without a car. I offered him a water. He declined. Then he asked about the apartment layout. Just casual stuff. Said it reminded him of his old place. Asked if I'd always lived alone. I remember thinking, he talks too much for a delivery guy. But I was tired, hungry, and more focused on the burger than the weird vibe. He left a couple minutes later, said, "Thanks again," and walked out like nothing. I ate, sat back, watched something on Hulu. Next thing I remember clearly is Rena's voice yelling my name, like a siren underwater. She found me on the floor, curled up, disoriented. I must have thrown up at some point. The smell was thick and sour. My limbs didn't work right. Couldn't stand. Couldn't even speak clearly. Next stop was the ER. I spent the night on fluids and nurses checking my pulse like I was already half gone. Blood work came back in the morning. High traces of benzodiazepine. They said I was lucky. Someone drugged my food. Maybe a drink. Rena just sat beside the bed, her hands trembling so bad she had to hold her coffee with both of them. Neither of us spoke for a long time, but something inside me, this voice I'd never heard before, just kept whispering, "Why did you let him in?" The cops asked the usual questions. Did I know the guy? Had I seen him before? Was anything stolen? And weirdly, no again. Nothing was missing except my phone, which had been lying on the kitchen counter, plugged in and charging. Not my wallet, not my laptop, just my phone, which made it worse somehow. Rena remembered him. Not from school, from Instagram. A few months back, she did a group project for a media class. Afterwards, some guy she barely remembered messaged her, said she seemed cool. She didn't answer. He messaged again a week later. She said she had a boyfriend. He didn't respond again. Until that night, she pulled up the DM. Same name, same profile pic, same guy. It hadn't clicked when he delivered the food. The hair was longer, maybe thinner, but now she was certain. The apartment complex had hallway cams. Security pulled the footage. There he was, 9:12 p.m., red hat, Wendy's jacket. Entered my door, stayed 12 minutes, left calmly. He never returned to work. Wendy's app showed the order was reassigned that night due to a system error, which meant the guy had seen her name, our address, our phone numbers, and walked in like it was a second chance. I didn't sleep much after that, even after the police took our statements, even after they checked our locks and said, "Keep us updated if he reaches out again." That phrase stuck with me. If he reaches out again. Like we were waiting for something inevitable. Rena deleted all her social media the next day. Everything. Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. I changed our passwords, installed a peephole cam, replaced the chain lock on the door with a metal bolt that cost too much. It wasn't enough. Every time I heard footsteps in the hallway, I froze. Every late delivery or knock made my stomach twist. We moved out 6 weeks later, broke the lease early, paid the fee. It wasn't about the apartment anymore. It was the way Rena triple-checked every window, the way I couldn't fall asleep without checking the front door 3 times. We didn't even fight about it. We just quietly agreed. The place didn't feel like ours anymore. We live on the other side of town now. Quiet street, small place, old carpet. But it feels safer. We don't order delivery anymore, ever. Rena doesn't even joke about it, and I don't push. I don't want to test the boundary we both feel but don't speak about. That guy, they never found him. Not really. No arrest, no case. Just a face in some grainy footage and a list of unanswered questions. I still wonder what his plan was. Was it revenge? Curiosity? A moment of obsession that got out of hand? Or had he done this before? Sometimes I wish he'd taken something. A laptop, a wallet, something I could point to and say, "That's why." But instead he left behind something worse. The fact that we invited him in. Because I did. I opened the door. I let him step across the line between someone you vaguely recognize and someone who can poison your dinner. And now I carry that choice like a bruise no one can see. Trust is easy to give in small moments, but it only takes one wrong one to lose everything. Not all danger wears a mask. Sometimes it just wears a name tag. I was halfway through my Baconator in the car when I realized how quiet everything had gotten. Friday dinner rush at this Wendy's on 14th Street, Kansas City. The drive-in was clogged, the register inside buzzing like a beehive, but out here in the back lot, a single flickering bulb near the dumpster and wind carrying soft summer nights static from the drive-through speaker. I chose this spot on purpose. Plain clothes, badge tucked under my jacket. Unpaid leave after I blew the whistle on Harding's excessive force. Quiet felt good. Then I heard it. A girl's voice, soft but tense. I said no. Back off. Words didn't carry far, but enough. I got out, folding my jacket over my arm so my badge wouldn't flash. As I rounded the lot, 4 teenage boys in hoodies circled a girl near the back wall. She looked maybe 16, clutching her phone like a lifeline. One of the guys had his hand on her shoulder. "Hey," I called out, stepping forward. "Everything okay?" They froze. One kid gave me a half smile. "We're just talking." I crouched to speak to her at eye level. "You okay?" She stared down at her phone. I nodded to the boys. "Back up, guys." They shuffled, leaning into each other like they were waiting for my next move. I looked at the girl. "Let's get you somewhere safe." She stiffened, then nodded once. She slid into the passenger seat. I locked the doors. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice shook. I flicked on the dome light, enough so she wouldn't feel anonymous in the dark. "Want to tell me what happened?" She sighed. "They followed me from the bus stop, across half the city. I told my counselor, but nobody did anything. This is the second time." My stomach sank. I reached for my phone. "I'll report this." She nodded, squeezing her phone. Before I could dial dispatch, I heard footsteps behind me. One kid leaning against the car, brandishing a phone. "I'm calling my dad." His voice cracked. "Is he?" "A ranking brass in KCPD," he said, face pale under the stroller light. We both froze. Uniformed officers showed up 5 minutes later. I told dispatch I was Officer Ridge, on leave trying to help. The boys claimed they were just walking through. Girl confirmed they threatened her. They asked if she wanted to press charges. She looked at me, unsure, didn't look at them. They took statements and then one of the boys' fathers arrived. Lieutenant, Harding's protege, ironically. He spoke quietly in a corner. I saw the processing detective nod once. Then the boys were released to their dads. No arrests. My report went into the system, coded as unfounded. I watched the girl transfer schools the next week. I tried contacting her counselor. They never replied. I still come here sometimes. Wendy's back lot, late evening. I don't wear the uniform, but I keep my badge in the glove box. It's easier this way. I order a Baconator, step outside to the same flicker-lit corner, wondering if I could have done more. Told her to press charges, demanded an officer hold them, not let them walk free. I'm learning that it's not always the badge that makes you feel safe. It's the silence afterward. What gets buried, what nobody asks about later. That's the real mess. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't enough. Silence from the people around you can be the heaviest kind of violence. I hadn't meant to be out that late. It was supposed to be a short visit, 3 hours tops, but Mom had needed help setting up her new phone. Then we got into a talk about bills and her knees, and suddenly it was after 9, and I still had a 3-hour drive ahead of me. Somewhere past Lebanon, my stomach started to tighten. I hadn't eaten all day except for a protein bar around noon. I stopped for gas outside Marshfield and saw a Wendy's sign just before getting back on the ramp. I don't usually stop that late, but the place looked open. Literature familiar. It was 11:15 when I pulled into the lot. Only a couple of cars were there. 2 semis parked far off toward the edge, and an older silver Nissan a few spots from mine. I ordered a chicken sandwich and a sweet tea. Inside, it was sterile and humming. That cold, bright kind of late-night lighting that makes everything feel like a hospital waiting room. A guy sat 2 tables over alone. Looked about mid-30s, maybe older. Long denim jacket. Shaggy hair that fell just above his eyes. I only noticed him because he didn't stop looking at me. Not glaring, not smiling, just watching. He was eating like someone who didn't care about the food. Slow, absent-minded bites like his mouth was on autopilot. I pretended not to notice. Faked some texts, scrolled aimlessly. Ate quicker than usual. Every time I glanced up, still watching. When I tossed my tray, I felt his gaze follow me all the way to the door. I walked fast. Got in my car, locked it, reversed. His Nissan didn't move. I took a breath, told myself I was overreacting, pulled onto the highway. 2 minutes later, I saw the headlights. Same car, same dents along the passenger door. I kept driving, told myself maybe it was a coincidence, someone headed in the same direction. I switched lanes. He switched lanes. I slowed. He slowed too. My heart was thudding by then. I cracked the window, hoping fresh air would settle me. My mouth had gone dry. I checked the rear view again. Still there. Same distance. Too close for comfort. Too far to see his face. I took the next exit without signaling. It led to a dead strip mall, the kind with a payday loan place and a vape shop that closed before dark. Just beyond it was a 24-hour pharmacy. It had big floodlights in the lot. I pulled in fast, parked directly under the brightest one, engine still running. The Nissan coasted past the lot, then slowed. He didn't turn in, just crawled along the shoulder for about 30 seconds. Watching, probably, then picked up speed again. I didn't move. Called the police. My voice sounded weird, like it wasn't mine. I explained what happened. They said they'd send someone by. It took 12 minutes. I counted every one. By the time the cruiser arrived, the car was long gone. The officer was kind, young, said maybe it was someone just heading the same way. But when I described the napkin part, which I hadn't found yet, but somehow already feared, he looked uneasy. They made a report, said to call if I noticed anything else strange. He asked if I wanted someone to follow me home. I said no. I already felt like I'd asked for too much. I drove the last hour with the windows cracked and music off. Just the sound of tires on road and my own breath. I didn't sleep well. I kept checking the front blinds every time headlights passed the house. Even the neighbors' car doors made me flinch. I didn't tell my roommate the full story until the next morning, when I sat at the kitchen table holding my phone like it was a weapon. She was the one who found it. I heard her call out from the driveway. "Mel?" She held up a napkin, folded, neat, pulled from underneath the driver's seat. There was handwriting on it, light, faint, like whoever wrote it didn't want to press too hard. "I liked your perfume. You shouldn't be alone this late." That's all it said. We stared at it for a long time. I don't remember breathing. I filed another report that afternoon. I don't think they ever followed up. A few weeks later, I changed my plates. New registration, new state tags. I didn't want to be easy to find. I stopped taking night drives. I scheduled everything earlier, even if it meant leaving a half day early from work or skipping things I cared about. I stopped using location tags on social, made my profiles private, blocked anyone I didn't recognize. I still pass Wendy's signs sometimes, on long drives or when I'm back visiting Mom. The big red logo with the pigtails. It used to remind me of being a kid, of drive-through nights with fries in the back seat. Now it just makes my stomach tighten. It's strange how a paper napkin, a look, a few bad minutes can reshape the way you move through the world. Not with panic, but with a kind of permanent alertness. A part of me always scanning, wondering what I can't see yet. We teach women to be polite before we teach them to be safe. And that's where the danger slips in. My first week at Wendy's felt like a lucky break. Northport's only fast food gig I could afford after community college, just enough to cover rent and a little pocket money. I clocked in, took fries out of the fryer, cleaned tables, and smiled when regulars said thanks. I liked the routine. Frank was shift manager, older guy, friendly sort of dad vibe. But after the first couple of shifts, his jokes changed tone. He'd walk by the counter, Call me Sunshine. Always in that sing-song voice. I'd smile politely, brush it off. Thanks, Frank. Only I didn't like it. At all. He blocked my way to the supply closet one afternoon, pointing at the camera. Don't worry, smile first, right? I laughed to diffuse it. Frank winked. I noted it in my phone later. Frank blocked doorway, said smile first. It felt ridiculous to log, but something didn't sit right. A few days later, he'd tell me I was too pretty to be hiding behind a headset while setting up timers. My face flushed. I said, "Can you please just call me Talia?" He shrugged it off, made another joke. These moments piled. Each felt small, but together, they got sticky. I didn't want to be that person, but I emailed HR the next morning. I laid it out. Dates, times, exact phrasing. I waited. A few hours later, they responded, "We'll look into it. Thank you." At first, I felt better. Someone listened. 2 days after that, I walked into work and froze. The locker with my name tag was ripped open. My bag was scattered. My name tag gone. I pulled up the Shift app. My profile was gone, schedule deleted. I tried other apps, same. I asked a coworker. She shrugged. "Frank said you quit." That moment cracked something inside me. I texted HR immediately. "Please explain. I have not quit." I called from the back office. I messaged the main HR email. Email read receipts showed messages opened, but no response. I waited by the locker room door every morning. No one said anything. At home later that night, I paced my room. I logged every detail into a Google Doc. Files showing who opened my messages. Timestamps. My roommate asked if I'd go back to Wendy's. I said I didn't know. I couldn't face Frank again. Or worse, walk in and have people pretend I'd resigned. 2 weeks later, my roommate looked up from her phone. "Did you post this?" She pointed to a Craigslist link I'd never seen. Young woman looking for casual companionship. But I didn't post it. I stared. My stomach flipped. My roommate called me lawyer. We called the cops. By the time we showed them the Craigslist page, someone had clicked, but nobody answered the phone. Detectives said no owner info, no IP trace. We filed, but got no solid leads. I started applying everywhere. Coffee shops, tutoring centers, retail jobs. I needed to move. On my last shift at Wendy's, I never officially left. I just didn't show up. I gave HR my exit paperwork up front for unemployment. I changed banks, got a new phone number, deactivated social media, shared my new number only with family. Even now, I check Craigslist. Sometimes someone uses my old number, sometimes it's gone. Either way, every time it shows back up, my chest tightens. Whoever did this might do it again, to me or someone else. Like they know it's easy, a name, a shift, a stolen identity. I never went back, not even for a burger. I changed cities, switched my major, moved into a new apartment 5 states away, safe from Frank, from fake ads, from feeling like a ghost. Harassment isn't just comments, it's about control. And when you try to stop it, sometimes the blowback is invisible, but no less real. Speaking up is brave, but it doesn't always protect you. Systems fail, and silence can hurt as much as the offense. I arrived during a heat wave, the kind that feels sticky even before you get out of the car. My first night in Lubbock, my new hometown, kind host family. Everything felt whispered and soft around me. I'd flown in for orientation at West Texas University, stayed with a family I'd never met. My host mom was kind, worried I might miss home food. Her teenage son Zane was polite, steady-eyed, gap-toothed smile that seemed easy. That night I felt brave enough to go out. A quick drive to the edge of town for burgers where the AC buzzed too loud. And we talked about campus life and classes I'd taken. Zane paid and slid into the driver's seat. I felt grateful, stuck in the back seat by habit, still feeling shy. I told myself I was just getting to know a new person. He said sweet things like, "Don't worry, I've got you," as he reversed out the lot. The night seemed normal, until he turned south instead of north. I looked at my phone screen. We were passing 2 exits, heading down a service road covered in gravel and tumbleweeds, toward dust and silence. My pulse ticked up. I told him apologies. I just didn't feel good enough to talk. He laughed it off. "Think it's a shortcut for fresh air," he said, glancing at me from the corner of his eye. Then he pulled onto a shoulder near a grain elevator, tall, rusted, hollow. He didn't stop talking. He asked if I had a boyfriend. I froze. I had plans back home, but it felt stupid to lie. I went quiet instead. He pulled the car to a silent stop. He laughed quietly. I told him I felt carsick. I sounded breathless, maybe guilty. He said okay, and we went home 5 minutes later, the longest 5 minutes of my life. Back in the house, the lights were dim. Mom was signing forms, eyes glued to the paper. Zane said goodnight like nothing had changed. I stood in the kitchen, breathing too hard, trying not to cry. I said something about paperwork, turned my room light off early. Later, I messaged my brother, change of plans. I'm switching housing. He replied fast with heart emojis and, "You good?" I wrote. I didn't feel safe and didn't think he'd ask more. That night I lay awake, heartbeat echoing. I wasn't sure if it had been a crime, but I was sure I didn't want to stay. Next day, I walked into the university housing office, said, "I need my own dorm assignment." The person behind the counter nodded, took my file without asking why. I stuck to, "I don't feel safe." No forms, no police, no drama. They changed my room, but no file was ever made, no record. Nobody asked again. Over the semester, I'd see Zane walking across campus. Sometimes he'd smile and wave, a small wave, internal and slow. His eyes never reached mine. I kept my eyes on my phone, pretended I didn't see. I told myself not to be rude, but I couldn't wave back. Not after that wrong turn. Not after the grain elevator. I couldn't prove what happened. I didn't press it. I didn't tell anyone except my brother and housing. I thought about reporting it. But who would believe an exchange student whose only proof was a gut feeling and a wrong turn? I didn't have a text trail, no messages, nothing but dread. Passers-by would look at Zane and say, "Oh, he's so polite." They'd say that to me too, kind, respectful, helpful. I always knew better. I'd walk past him now, giving space. I avoided the neighbor's house when I passed it for orientation events, scenes I couldn't see again. Late nights, the road behind the university looks like gold from headlights. There's a stretch of service road still unmapped on Google. I drive our car on those, think, I'm not stuck, but I also know how small the world is, how short a ride from safety to fear. Sometimes I wonder if he remembers that night too. Does he think about me? Does he care? I don't want attention. I don't need justice, not loud noise. I just wanted to feel safer. Now I always pull the door lock. I always sit in the front seat. And when someone offers me a drive after dinner, I say no. That wrong turn changed me. I'm not broken, I'm different. And that's okay. No proof, no case. Doesn't mean it didn't matter. Our instincts are real, and sometimes your dignity lies in walking away, even when nobody else sees the danger. I'm not the type to complain. I don't have time for that. Between cleaning offices all morning and folding laundry at the nursing home at night, I barely have time to breathe, let alone get into it with some kid over fast food. But that Thursday, it stuck with me. It was one of those days where everything ran behind. Traffic was crawling, my youngest had a rash, and my oldest had cried at daycare because someone broke her lunchbox. By 6 p.m., I was exhausted. Thursdays we do Wendy's. Not fancy, just a small treat so I don't feel like a bad mom for feeding them cereal 3 nights a week. I ordered on the app from the car, just like always. Chicken nuggets for the girls, a junior, bacon for me. $22.14 already taken out of my bank app. I remember the exact number. That's how tight things are. I pull up to the window, phone ready. The kid behind the counter looks confused, says my name's not on the list. I show him the receipt. He disappears for a bit. Then it just spirals. 10, maybe 15 minutes go by. My baby starts wailing. Bottle hits the floor. The toddler keeps saying she's hungry. Finally, a manager comes out. Big guy, headset slung low. "There's no order," he says. "Maybe it didn't go through." I show the receipt again. "I got charged." "Look," he squints, shrugs. "Can't give out free food. You can call corporate." That's when I felt my face go hot, not just from the embarrassment, from knowing what this meant. I didn't move. I sat there, foot on the brake, hazard lights blinking. I wasn't trying to make a scene, but I also wasn't leaving. My girls were crying in the back, and I just sat there holding my phone like it was supposed to protect me. Cars started honking behind me. Staff closed the window like I was invisible. I called customer service in the parking lot. They said they'd escalate it. I tweeted too. Not that I have followers or anything, but it felt like yelling into a void. I took screenshots of everything. I went home and made toast with peanut butter and a banana split between the girls. I didn't eat, couldn't. I checked my bank app that night. 2 charges. Same Wendy's. Same time. I called again. Waited on hold for almost an hour, then got cut off. No resolution, just the automated voice saying, "Your call is important to us." That next Monday, my landlord slipped a note under the door. Rent late. $45 late fee added. I was already short. Now I was scrambling, skipping meals again, holding back the last of my SNAP balance to stretch the kids' cereal. It's amazing how small a number can be and still matter so much. I used my last bit of data to email Wendy's again. Nothing. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Plain white envelope. No return address except for guest relations. Inside was a $10 gift card. No apology, no explanation. Just a stock message. "Thanks for being a valued customer. We appreciate your loyalty." Loyalty? I gave them patience, time, documentation, and they sent me a plastic card worth half a meal and a smiley face at the bottom of the note. I threw it in the trash. I stopped going to Wendy's. Just like that. Cold turkey. Not out of protest or spite, but because I realized what happened wasn't about a sandwich. It was about the way they looked at me, like I didn't matter. Like being calm and polite made me easier to dismiss. If I had yelled, thrown something, made a scene, maybe I would have gotten my food. But instead, I left hungry. Twice charged. And ignored. You don't forget that. Now, when the girls ask for Wendy's, I just say, "We'll get something else." I don't explain. I just quietly take a different street on Thursdays. It's strange what gets stuck in your head. Not the meal, not even the money, but the way someone can shrug off your voice because they think no one will hear you anyway. Being poor doesn't mean you owe anyone your dignity. Systems fail people not with loud rejections, but with quiet disregard. And respect shouldn't cost $22.14. I'd been working at Wendy's for a few weeks when Marcus first pulled me aside. I was stacking napkins and scanning receipts in the lull after the lunch rush. Kids playing on whiteboards, the smell of fryer grease thick in the air, floor cleaner scent lingering. Marcus hovered nearby, arms crossed, that confident half smile of his. "Kid, you up for a quick favor?" he said. My stomach clenched a little. He always called me kid or rookie, and it stung more than he could know. I forced a smile. "Sure, Marcus." He led me to the dim office behind the freezer, a single flickering bulb. He handed me a plain white gift card with no logo. "Corporate gave this to us to run a system test. Load $100, ring up an inventory guy I'm expecting." "How do I?" "Just follow the prompts. Scan, load, done." He waved toward the register. "Then you hand it to my guy. Don't overthink it, rookie." It felt weird, but he sounded so sure. I scanned the card, punched in $100, watched it go through. I took the card out and stepped aside. A tall man in a hoodie walked in like clockwork. No greeting, no eye contact. I handed him the card. He nodded and left. That was it. 3 days later, Marcus sent me to the office again. Only this time, the general manager sat behind the desk with 2 printed spreadsheets. "Kayla, we need to talk. Someone loaded a gift card for $100 not attached to any sale. Marcus says he never authorized it. My heart dropped. I did it, but Marcus asked me to. The general manager rubbed his temples. The security camera at the register was flagged offline that day, no footage. Marcus was quiet, arms folded. I explained everything, his instructions, the hoodie guy, the exact time. The manager's face went blank. "Why involve a minor?" Marcus asked, voice smooth. "I've tasked her with legitimate work." I left the office confused and scared. Suspended pending investigation. Message from my parents came through fast. I was beyond nervous. For 2 weeks I went through question after question. HR interviews, my mom by my side, late-night phone calls tracing every step that day. Marcus dropped by the register like nothing happened. I pulled my apron tighter. My confidence started unraveling. I watched co-workers side-eye me, whispering. Then one afternoon, HR called. "You're cleared. We verified timestamps, interviews, and even tracked the gift card's ID back to the hoodie guy, not store inventory. You can return Monday." Relief washed over me like icy rain, but it came with a price. Monday morning felt hollow. I walked in. Manager smiled. Co-workers nodded politely. But I felt exposed. Everything changed. Every smile felt hollow. I'd trusted the process, that I belonged. Now I didn't. I earned a few shifts, then quit quietly a month later. I found a retail job at a bookstore, calmer, more respectful. From time to time I hear rumors through old friends at Wendy's. Marcus's new system tests are hitting someone else. It makes me sick. How many rookies don't push back? How many get stuck in corners afraid they'll lose everything for asking questions? I still drive past that Wendy's sometimes. I don't think I'll ever go back, not even as a customer. It's not the food. It's what happened behind the counter, the way he used trust and authority against someone younger and careful. Authority is not always just. Sometimes it's a test you didn't sign up for. Speaking up might feel costly, but staying silent costs more in the end. I've never liked dressing up. Not because I hate looking clean, I do all right in a mirror. It's more about what dressing up means when you're broke. When you've been out of work for 3 months, ironing a button-down shirt feels like lying to yourself. Like pretending you're still someone a manager might want to shake hands with. But that Tuesday morning, I did it anyway. The call came around 9 a.m., 661 number. Female voice, friendly but quick. "Hi, is this Derek Porter? This is Michelle from Wendy's on Carson Avenue. We reviewed your application. Can you come in for a 10:30 interview today?" My heart lifted like it hadn't in weeks. I thanked her, scribbled the address and time, grabbed my resume, and caught the number. 28th bus. I even skipped breakfast to afford the fare. I got to the Wendy's by 10:05. The place was nearly empty. Just one older couple near the window and a college kid with headphones at a corner table. It smelled like floor cleaner and fries. I sat near the back, straightening the edges of my resume every 2 minutes. Tried not to look too eager, but every second stretched longer. At 10:40, I stood and walked to the counter. The girl at the register, probably no older than 18, looked confused when I asked about the interview. "I don't think we're doing interviews today," she said. "Someone called me this morning." "Michelle?" She shrugged. Went to the back. A few minutes later, a guy in a red Wendy's polo, the store manager, came out. He looked tired, like he'd just been told his break got cut. "You're here for what now?" I repeated what I'd been told. He shook his head. "Nobody named Michelle works here, and I didn't call anybody today. Sorry, man." Just like that, my stomach bottomed out. The bus ride home felt longer, hotter. I stared out the window the whole way, arms folded, heartbeat still high like I'd just escaped something. Back in my apartment, I tossed the resume onto the table and slumped into the couch. I didn't even have the energy to cuss. I called Alina around 6 o'clock, straight to voicemail. I texted instead, "Hey, did your cousin start working at Wendy's?" I wasn't sure why I even thought to ask. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe it was the familiar sting of being played with, the feeling that someone was watching, waiting for me to react. No reply that night. The next morning came and went. It wasn't until Thursday that she called. Quiet voice. Hesitant. I stepped out onto the porch just to get some air while I answered. Derek. I didn't know he'd actually go through with it. My stomach clenched. I didn't say anything, just waited. He saw your name on my old job board login. Thought it would be funny. I told him to stop. It wasn't my idea, I swear. I exhaled hard through my nose. My hand shook even though I wasn't mad, just tired. Tired of being a punchline. Don't call me again, I said, and hung up. The worst part wasn't the prank. It was how easily I believed it. How I still put on the nice shirt, still printed the resume, still hoped. I kept thinking about the girl at the counter, the manager's blank face, wondering if they'd laughed once I left. Maybe not out loud, but silently, the kind that sticks with you longer. By Friday, I started applying again. I didn't want to, but rent didn't care about feelings. I logged onto Indeed with a new email. I updated my phone number. Removed references tied to the old job board where Alina still had access. One job at a time. Grocery store. Janitorial work. A few third shift things that didn't look awful. I never talked about the fake interview again. Not to my parents. Not to friends. What was I gonna say? That someone thought I was worth screwing with? Just for sport. 2 weeks later, I got hired part-time at a car wash on Maple. Not great pay, but decent hours. The guy who interviewed me didn't look at my resume for longer than 10 seconds. He just asked if I could show up on time and lift buckets. You work, you stay. You mess around, you're gone. Simple. Honest. A few co-workers were solid guys. A couple were bitter, older, never smiled. Still, it felt better than Wendy's. One day I passed that same Wendy's on the way to work. Thought about stopping in, maybe just for a soda. I pulled into the parking lot, stared at the building for a few minutes. Then I turned the car back on and left. Didn't owe anyone my money, or my presence. Dignity isn't something people can hand you, but it's definitely something they'll try to take. The world has a cruel way of testing what you're made of, even when you're already down. But the real test isn't in how you're treated, it's in how you decide to keep going anyway. I left the group study around 9:45 p.m., stumbling out of the campus library with flashcards in hand and a craving for something warm and salty. My stomach was growling louder than the fluorescent lights overhead. Wendy's at Alderbrook Mall was only a 5-minute walk away, and open. Classic move. Caffeine, carbs, and a solo booth in the corner where nobody knew you. When I slid into the booth at 10:05 p.m., I plugged in my earbuds and scrolled through TikToks while waiting for my usual order. Junior bacon cheeseburger, small fries, unsweetened iced tea. I was in my own world until I noticed the counter go quieter. I lifted an earbud and looked up. The night shift guy, maybe late 20s, dark hair under the visor, was standing idle. Not just standing, staring in my direction. It made me pause, but I thought, everybody's bored at this hour. I slipped my earbuds back in and picked at a curly fry. Finished eating, I tossed the tray and stepped outside into the cool night. My car was at the far end of the lot. Nice quiet stretch with trees behind it and an alley dark as a cave. At 10:20, the lot was basically empty, just a stray sedan in a corner. I unlocked my car and slid in. As I backed out, I caught movement behind me in the mirror, that sedan inching forward as if zoning on me. I felt my stomach clench. That shouldn't be here. I turned right. It followed. I turned again down a residential street, same. My pulse thudded like a drum in my ears. I accelerated through the neighborhood, breathing hard. I looped the block once more, and the car followed like a shadow. That's when I started to panic. I pulled into the well-lit Walgreens parking lot at the end of the block, spinning under the bright pharmacy lights. I locked the doors and called my dad. My voice shook. Dad, someone's following me. He told me to stay in the car, stay on the line, and wait. The lights overhead buzzed. The sedan slowed down at the entrance, idled for a moment, then sped off, almost like it realized I'd lost sight of it. About 10 minutes later, I saw my dad's headlights. He pulled in, honked twice, and strode over. I got out, hugging him like a lifeline, legs still shaking. We called campus security from his phone. They took notes. Plate unknown, car description minimal. Without proof, they told me they'd patrol the area. My dad drove me home. The entire ride, I stared at the rearview mirror, expecting headlights to pop up again. But nothing. I went inside, of course, locked every door and window, and slept with the light on. For a few days, things felt heavy. I avoided campus late nights, skipped a tutoring shift or two. Friends asked if I was okay. I shrugged, told them I was tired from studying. They didn't press, partly because no one could see what I did. There was no photo, no message, just my gut saying, "He's watching." A week later, I was walking back to my dorm after a tutoring session. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom about dinner I'd skipped. I looked up to respond and froze. Across the street, a dark sedan was parked under a street lamp. The same guy from the Wendy's shift, the one who stared at me, stood next to the car, holding a phone to his ear but looking right at me. I almost walked into traffic when I jerked and ducked into the nearest building. My feet pounded away, my heart nearly screeched off my ribs. I called campus security, screamed at them to come right now. They showed up in minutes, which felt slow as ocean tides, but by then he was gone. I don't go to that Wendy's anymore. I've driven past, pulling onto a different exit before I see the sign. I deleted my public Instagram, started walking with friends after late studying instead of solo. I changed my tutoring schedule back home by daylight. I started carrying pepper spray. Even though none of it solves the problem, it just made me feel like I could. I'm learning that some things don't have evidence. Some fears leave no trace. Nobody else saw the car follow. Nobody else saw him stare at me or pretend to call as I walked. They can't proof anxiety or instinct, or the moment when something inside you says, "That's not okay." Each time I recall those parking lot reflections, I relive it. My heartbeat still stumbles. I know nothing happened, no physical harm, but that stalking, that presence, unnamed, unseen, it was real. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't what someone does, but what they make you feel is about to happen. You don't need proof to trust your instincts. And protecting yourself doesn't mean you're overreacting. It means you believed in your right to feel safe. I used to think I was too ordinary for drama. Just a contractor, living solo in a small Vallejo rental, clocking in 10-hour days on job sites. My evenings were predictable. Shower, grudgingly cook, or most nights grab takeout. Wendy's on Redwood Parkway was my autopilot. Dashboard glow, warm bag in hand, easy dinner without thought. That Wednesday around 7, rush hour packed the lot. I ordered online from the car, double bacon cheeseburger, large fries, sweet tea. Drove through slowly. Staff were hustling, slipping my bag into the window one hand at a time. When I got home and set the bag on the kitchen counter, I noticed something strange. Under the napkins lay a sealed white envelope. Plain, no name, folded carefully, heavier than paper. I tore it open. Inside, $200 in cash, crisp bills, stacked, and a note, typed or printed, words even cold. Next time, leave it under the register like before, no screw-ups. My pulse spiked. Screw-ups. I'd never left money anywhere at Wendy's before. My mind clutched at possibilities. Wrong bag? Some internal mess? Or was this a message? I checked the receipt. My name, my card, the right order. I hadn't forgotten money or duty. This bag was mine. I called the store within 20 minutes. The manager answered, "Yes, sir." I found something in my bag that should not be there. I explained calmly. The envelope, the cash, the note. He paused. "We don't put anything like that in bags, sir. Must be from somewhere else." The line went quiet. "I'll double check, sir." He called back 5 minutes later, apologetic but firm. Nothing. No envelopes. No extra slips of cash. The name of the crew member who took my order. He didn't have it. After I hung up, I walked through the apartment, checking locks, drawing blinds tighter, flicking off porch lights that shone on the curb. I tried to sleep but couldn't. That note had weight, not paper, but intimidation. The next evening, I heard a sharp 3 knocks at the door around dinner time. My stomach flipped. I opened the peephole. A man, mid-40s, clean-cut, pressed jeans, shirt tucked, polished shoes. Professional, maybe a company rep. "Hello, Mr. Rivera. Sorry to bother you. I'm with Wendy's Distribution Center. We're following up." My heart hammered. Distribution center? Like logistics. I kept the door closed. "I work closely with the stores. Any chance you received something by mistake?" I forced calm. "Nope. Didn't get anything. Didn't call. I already contacted the store." He smiled tightly. "It's just easier if I take it now." I didn't budge. He waited 10 feet back, hands folded, polite smile. I could see his eyes shifting, scanning. Cool air, tension. After over an hour, he finally left without a word. I stared from behind the door until the porch light went out. I called the police once he left. They took note, asked for description. No plate given. He'd parked across the street just out of sight. They took the envelope and note from me. My statement was taken. Time. Description. The man. "We'll look into it," they said. I didn't sleep much that night. For a week, every vehicle that slowed near the curb made me tense. Every unfamiliar engine. I tried carrying pepper spray, walked with purpose, tried acting normal at home, but I couldn't shake the question, was this a mistake or something meant for someone else? And I got dragged in. What happens if they come back? What if it's not about cash, but about threats or bribes and who it was supposed to go to? The unease overflowed. I couldn't work the same fast food runs. Going to Wendy's felt like standing in a store of people who knew something I didn't. A few days later, I moved, packed my tools, found a smaller rental across town, no shared walls, better lighting. I changed my license plate, moved utilities. I don't drive down Redwood Parkway anymore. I avoid the fast food stretch. Life is quieter. I sleep better with blackout curtains. I still see the cash sometimes. Yellow paper, crease marks. It haunts me. One morning I went through the envelope again. There's no signature, no name, just instruction. All I know is someone trusted me with a message too heavy to carry. You don't have to be involved in something to get caught in it. Sometimes the coldest threats aren't shouted, but slipped quietly into your world, just enough to scare you into moving on.